approach to look at that, yes, and we are taking steps to doing that.
There's concern from those on both sides that reform could mean more coercive powers over people with mental health issues. On the flip side, that these measures won't go far enough to keep people safe. For Christy, still on the slow road to recovery, reform of mental health care is long overdue.
So I'm talking about 45 years of my life, born and raised in Vancouver, seeing how things have changed in the city. So I knew what Riverview was. I knew that that was a place where people could get the help that they needed in terms of mental health. So with that building closing, where are they going now? The amount of random attacks that are happening downtown, the amount of people living on the street due to mental health because they don't have the help that they need and they do deserve. This type of incident was bound to happen. So it doesn't surprise me that it did. Unfortunately, it happened to me and my family and all the other victims. So something really, really needs to be done.
That's Assignment from Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm Sam Gruet, and the producer was Megan Lawton.
That was Assignment from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho, and this is CBC Radio 1. Have a great day.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio, and we are live downtown with you. Thanks so much for sharing your morning with us and for spending some time with us here on the show. You're on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube today. Show's on until 8:37 AM, and if you need us on the commute, 788-3093. And you might, because there's a fog advisory in effect this morning, especially around Winkler and Morden. There's thick fog there, and of course, we continue to deal with smoke and some really sad news around the wildfires. Before we say good morning to the team, let's actually go there to Matt Humphrey, who's in live with our news headlines to start the show at 3 minutes to 6. Hi, Matt.
Good morning. Leaf Rapids is evacuating all firefighters and essential workers after an out-of-control wildfire burned into the northern community last night. Town leadership says the fire jumped the Churchill River, spreading through the industrial area, and officials say firefighters may not be returning to the community for some time. At the bottom of the hour at 6:30, we'll hear from the Leaf Rapids former mayor. He's now in Winnipeg after an evacuation order. Meanwhile, scientists are concerned the smoke from wildfires could be even more toxic than usual, saying more research needs to be done on the kind of pollutants being released into the air. I'll have more after World Report.
All right, thanks very much.
Back soon.
Matt Humphreys in our news department this morning. Sarah Sanders is directing the show and helping with teching, and we're going to cover the commute and weather here. Good morning, Sierra. Brad Lillies and Azika are in covering what's going on our YouTube stream, so if you're watching us there, good morning. Make sure you say hello to our producers and directors. Well, today we also are going to be trying to reach some of the folks that have been in Winnipeg, already evacuated from Leaf Rapids. We understand some of them may have attempted. We're not sure, haven't yet confirmed if they did this, but we're planning at least to gather last night upon that sad news about the fire entering communities. So we'll stay with us here on the show, and we'll try to get that on for you. Throughout the day here in Winnipeg, down south here, our high is 25 with Humidex 28. It's going to be hazy through this afternoon. Well, in addition to fires, measles are a growing concern in this province. In the first hour of the show, we're going to talk about the numbers as hospitalization numbers do increase in Manitoba. And then to lighter fare, you heard yesterday about the can of pop that's promising to be prebiotic. We're going to learn more about exactly what that means and whether or not you should put this stuff in your body. Stay tuned. World Report's next.
Today on Q.
Last week I was a Hasidic Lubavitch Jew living in Crown Heights, New York. Now I'm in LA, I'm gay, and probably an atheist.
I'm Garvey Bailey, sitting in for Tom Power. Robbie Hoffman is here to talk about playing a Hollywood assistant who left an Orthodox Hasidic community on the TV show Hacks, a character inspired by her own real-life story.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. After 8 weeks of testimony, 2 juries, 1 mistrial, and a lot of twists and turns, a judge will deliver her decision in the trial of 5 former World Junior hockey players today. The case is being followed closely by the hockey world, the legal community, and women's rights advocates. Karen Pauls has been following the trial in London, Ontario.
In an empty law classroom at the University of Manitoba, Associate Professor Brandon Trask is already preparing lesson plans that include this high-profile and highly unusual trial.
It's exceptionally rare to have essentially 2 different juries selected and then discharged.
Michael McLeod, Alex Formanton, Carter Hart, Dylan Dubé, and Cal Foote are charged with sexually assaulting a woman known under a publication ban as EM in a London, Ontario hotel room in June 2018. They have all pleaded not guilty. The case centers on the issue of consent, and there's been much discussion about 2 consent videos McLeod recorded towards the end of the night.
Consent needs to be contemporaneous with the actions, what took place. Video afterwards is generally speaking not going to be given much, if any, weight, in large part because there are all sorts of questions about was there undue pressure being placed.
Daphne Gilbert is a law professor at the University of Ottawa. She says it's possible the judge will find EM did not consent, but that the accused had an honest mistaken belief that she did. The judge must believe the accused took reasonable steps to confirm consent.
I'm hoping that if reasonable steps are an issue here, that we will get perhaps some new and additional clarification on what's required in situations like this, where the parties are totally strangers to each other. There was a lot of alcohol involved, multiple parties in the room.
If nothing else, Gilbert hopes the case will educate Canadians on what consent really is. Karen Pauls, CBC News, London, Ontario.
Experts say rescue operations at the Red Chris mine in northern BC require a cautious approach, and it could take days to free the 3 miners trapped underground. Here is UBC geotechnical engineer Professor Dwayne Tonnant.
They'll be very systematic about bringing the right equipment, the right personnel with experience to stabilize the tunnel. And I suspect they're going to have to then pull out the debris, and they'll do that in a series of stages.
Red Chris is an open-pit copper and gold mine. The miners were drilling underground when it collapsed on Tuesday. The CBC's Callie McTavish has traveled to the site on Tahltan territory, and she brings us the latest.
It's surprisingly quiet at the entrance gate to the Red Chris mine. No unusual activity to indicate the rescue operation happening underground. People at the gas station in Iskut say all they know about the incident they heard on the news. The mine is located on Tahltan territory. Truck drivers waiting to bring their materials up say so far the company has been tight-lipped. A source with direct knowledge of the rescue operation told CBC there was an initial incident that happened Tuesday evening that forced the workers to seek refuge further into the mine. The 3 workers immediately went to a refuge station equipped with water, food, and air, enough to sustain 16 people for 3 days. A second collapse of earth shortly after severed communication lines. Newmont, the mine's major shareholder, confirmed this but would not reveal their names to respect their privacy and that of their families. The company did say one of the people trapped is from Ontario and 2 are from BC. A spokesperson said in a statement that operations at the mine have ceased while the company focuses on resuming contact and rescuing the drillers. Callie McTavish, CBC News, near Iskut, British Columbia.
A border dispute between Thailand and Cambodia has turned deadly. At least 12 people have died in crossfire as troops from both sides exchange gunfire. 40,000 others have been evacuated from dozens of villages along the disputed border with Cambodia. Patrick Falk has more.
Firefighters in Thailand's Sisaket province rushed to douse flames as clashes with Cambodia intensified. Elsewhere, in Surin province, also bordering Cambodia, people took cover in bunkers that have been fortified in recent weeks as tensions heightened between the 2 sides. Reports say the latest unrest began at an ancient temple in a disputed zone near Thailand's eastern frontier with Cambodia. Thailand's acting Prime Minister Pumtham Wechayachai said authorities are investigating the matter. We need more information, he says, as the situation requires caution and prudence. The neighbouring countries have been on edge since May following the killing of a Cambodian soldier at an undemarcated border area. It's since escalated into a full-blown crisis. Cambodia has condemned what it called reckless and brutal Thai military aggression. Thailand says it was Cambodia that fired first. It's closed all border checkpoints with Cambodia. Earlier, the two sides both downgraded diplomatic relations with one another, meaning it may be difficult to find a solution to diffuse the tension. Patrick Falk for CBC News, Singapore.
Donald Trump's Jeffrey Epstein problem is not going away. In fact, it's getting worse. A U.S. House Oversight Subcommittee voted to subpoena the files on the sex trafficking investigation into Epstein. And there are reports the U.S. president has been told his name does appear in those files. Let's go to Janice McGregor in our Washington bureau. And Janice, it's no secret Trump and Epstein were friends. Why is it such big news that he is in those files?
Marcia, photos and videos of these former friends together around beautiful women are dominating U.S. media. But the Wall Street Journal's revelation yesterday that the president was briefed by his attorney general about his name appearing in these files raises more questions about why this disclosure that even many Republicans are calling for hasn't happened yet. And while not denying that Donald Trump's name appears, the White House was dismissing the latest reporting as fake news. The attorney general's office says nothing in these files warrants further investigation or prosecution. But without knowing why or how exactly Trump's name comes up, skepticism remains. Trump is now suing the Wall Street Journal for its reporting on a suggestive birthday letter that Trump allegedly wrote to Epstein that featured the drawing of a naked woman and reference to their, quote, wonderful secret. If this lawsuit proceeds, that is going to bring more disclosures, and Trump may have to testify under oath about what he knew or what he was involved in. So some believe the White House is going to be forced to drop it.
And this is still an issue on Capitol Hill, even though the House was dismissed a day early. How is that possible?
Well, yesterday, a House Oversight Subcommittee voted to hear from its own witnesses on the Epstein files, with MAGA movement Republicans siding with the Democrats. Epstein's former partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, who's currently serving 20 years for her part in these crimes, is going to be subpoenaed. The Department of Justice is going to have to hand over more files. Republican Chair Clay Higgins from Louisiana says the American people need to know the truth.
I've never handled a subpoena like this. You understand, this is some fascinating stuff, and it has to be handled legally and ethically within the parameters of our rules.
Today, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who used to serve on Trump's legal team, is also interviewing Maxwell as part of the Justice Department's inquiry. But critics have pointed out that if the Justice Department wants to know the real truth, it should be focusing on the young women who were victimized by Epstein's network.
Thank you so much, Janice.
You're welcome.
Janice McGregor, reporting from Washington. Many people are prioritizing Canadian products when they shop as their way of fighting back against U.S. President Donald Trump's trade war. But as Sophia Harris reports, some big grocers are mislabeling imported foods as Canadian.
Stacey Deneen cuts up strawberries from Ontario in her kitchen. She's all in on the Buy Canadian movement, especially for food.
I will actively avoid buying products from the United States.
But she loses her appetite when it's mislabeled, like broccoli, advertised at her local Sobeys store as a product of Canada.
I was pretty excited, except that when I picked it up, the tag shows Salinas, California. That frustrates me. It makes me feel misled.
According to the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, in the past 8.5 months, the agency has identified 29 complaint-driven cases involving country of origin claims for food where companies violated the rules. The CFIA says most of the cases involve bulk produce sold in stores.
So I think the retailers have to step up to the plate and actually get their act together.
Labeling expert Mary Labbe says 6 months into the Buy Canadian movement, grocers owe it to shoppers to get it right.
They've had enough time. By now, they should know what's required of them and actually be doing it correctly.
Sobeys and other big grocers told CBC News they strive to provide accurate country of origin signage, but that mistakes can happen when managing large inventories and frequently changing suppliers.
I have run out of patience.
As for Deneen, she'll keep checking the fine print on products to make sure she knows where her food is coming from. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Well, good morning, Winnipeg, and hello, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We are live in downtown Winnipeg, and you're with CBC. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. In the city of Winnipeg today, we have a risk of a thunderstorm late this afternoon and a high of 25. We also have thick fog down south and some smoke, of course, still being a major problem in northern Manitoba. In a moment, we'll hear from our news department about some developments, some very upsetting developments in Manitoba around the wildfires. So stay tuned. Matt Humphrey here in a moment. I can tell you that right now, current temperature in Winnipeg as we get started here for our Thursday morning show is 17 degrees, and there's light rain falling in Portage. Well, this hour to brighter things, we're going to hear more about what's going on at the Forks. They have a whole bunch of fun summer programming if you're looking for things to do. We also are going to talk more about prebiotic pop. Should you drink this stuff or not? What does it do for you? And measles cases, a growing concern in Manitoba. We'll dig into that. So we'll look at some of those measles numbers in a moment. Right now, though, as I mentioned, Matt Humphrey is in with some headlines, and I can't imagine you're not leading with the fire news.
No, we're not. Yeah, the northwestern Manitoba town of Leith Rapids says a wildfire has entered the community. The town says a fire has jumped the Churchill River and entered the community through its industrial area. A social media post from the town says all personnel, including firefighters, have had to leave the town, located about 980 kilometers northwest of Winnipeg. Officials say the fire is out of control. It's about 25 square kilometers in size. At the bottom of the hour, we'll hear from the town's former mayor. He's in Winnipeg with his family after an earlier evacuation order. More at 6:30. And of course, our hearts go out to everyone from Leith Rapids and everyone who has had to evacuate.
You know what? That was in all of my years of reporting, one of my saddest days on the job was covering the flood in 97. And it was the day around St. Agath, St. Adolphe, because that's where the military was at the time, filling sandbags to try to help.
Sure.
So I've been there sort of every day with people as they were exhaustingly trying to fight, shoring up their properties and communities.
Yeah.
And the saddest day, and I remember it so vividly, was the day that the military actually said everybody's got to go, including us, because this is as much as we can do, similar to today. So hearing you say, my heart is like just there as soon as you said, firefighters even, have had to leave.
Absolutely.
It's just such a moment. There was a man on the side of the road at that time all those years ago who he wept, he couldn't speak. And I remember pulling over, and I don't know if I've shared this story on the air before, but I remember pulling over myself and I wept. And I called my news department.
Yeah.
They wanted me to be on the news. And I said, I'm never going to be a reporter. I said, I can't handle it. I'm so upset like this. And they said, this is part of it. And I just talked about all the emotion. So good on you for saying, that we're thinking about folks in that way, because in these moments, how do you even report, when everyone's left?
Exactly.
I feel so badly for everyone.
Orbit of human misery.
Yeah.
And it's cumulative. But we'll hear more at the bottom of the hour.
Let's hope that winds shift.
Yeah.
Right? Let's hope that maybe some rain comes and maybe Mother Nature can protect that community for
Absolutely.
folks. Yeah. All right. If you are from Leaf, or if you are a fire evacuee and you want to reach out, we are here with as much information as we can provide and as we can confirm, as Matt said. We will hear more through the morning. We are chasing different officials from town this morning as well. You can always call us at 788-3205. It's 6:13 right now on CBC, and let's get into the current weather. I mentioned some of it, but in Winnipeg, cloudy and 17 degrees right now. Brandon is partly cloudy. It's 13. Thompson, partly cloudy. The cold spot in the province at 2 degrees. For Winnipeg today, we have that chance of showers late this afternoon, risk of a thunderstorm 25. We also have a fog advisory around Winkler and Morden, and we have that wildfire smoke of impacting air quality across central and northern Manitoba. In Brandon, in case you're curious, just looking to other cities, mix of sun and cloud, also chance of showers for you today, and in Thompson, mainly sunny and local smoke with a high of 23. If you need us on the morning commute, the commuter line is a different number. It is this, 788-3093. mentioned that we were going to talk about the measles numbers. In case you missed this yesterday, measles, a virus that was almost eradicated in the 1990s, is back and numbers are climbing. The province released new numbers on measles yesterday. The latest update shows that 39 cases have been reported in July alone. That brings the total confirmed cases to 158. There have also been several hospitalizations. CBC's Zubina Ahmed spoke with Provincial Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Santina Lee.
So from the start of the year, January 1st until July 5th of 2025, there has been a total of 7 cases of measles reported that required hospitalization, as well as 1 case that required admission to the intensive care unit.
Is this the number of hospitalization you'd expect to see given the number of cases we have?
We know that in terms of the numbers that we are seeing, those are the numbers that are reported to us through testing as well as clinical notification of people who are seeking medical health care and are presenting with measles-like symptoms. We do know that there are likely many more cases that are occurring in the community for which people have not felt the need to present to healthcare, so we don't necessarily know about them. That's not something unique to Manitoba. We are hearing a similar situation in other provinces across Canada, and so the numbers that we are receiving and reporting are, we do believe, lower than the number of cases that are occurring in community.
What symptoms can lead to hospitalizations when it comes to measles?
I can't specifically speak to the cases that we've had requiring hospitalization because the numbers are very low, and so for privacy reasons. But in general, some of the more common complications of measles is related to breathing difficulties, whether that's directly from the measles infection or a pneumonia. And so that is one of the more relatively common complications that could potentially lead to someone needing to be in the hospital. There are other complications that are a little bit more rare such as brain swelling or what we would call encephalitis and other brain-related complications, and those could also potentially result in hospitalization.
And who is most at risk for hospitalizations?
Kids who are really young, so specifically those who are less than 5 years of age. People who are pregnant, particularly if they are pregnant and are not immune to measles, so getting it for the first time, and people who are immunocompromised.
What are the benefits? Do you encourage people to go get as much vaccinated for measles as possible?
Absolutely, and I absolutely do encourage people that if they are not vaccinated against measles or not fully, completely up to date with the number of doses that are recommended for measles, that they should get that done and as soon as possible. We know that the vaccine is really safe, that there are minimal side effects related to it, and that it is really, really effective in protecting people from getting the infection. And occasionally we do see what we call breakthrough infections, where someone who was vaccinated who does get infected. This typically happens for people who have had really long, prolonged, intense exposure to measles that is ongoing. And in those situations, though, we do see that if they've been vaccinated in the past, prior to their infection, that the type of symptoms that they develop usually is much less severe than people who have not gotten vaccinated. And then as I was describing, some of those complications I described were more of the short-term complications, but there are some longer-term complications that you can get related to measles that might not develop for several years, right? And there's no way to know who's going to get the complications as compared to who might not, other than, as I mentioned, those people who are in the groups that are at a bit of a higher risk. But in general, it's hard to tell even amongst those groups who is or is not going to get those complications. So the only real way to prevent getting those complications is to get vaccinated.
So that is Dr. Santina Lee, Provincial Medical Officer of Health, in conversation with CBC's Zabina Ahmed about the province's measles numbers and the numbers of hospitalizations. Now, that was the latest as of yesterday. That's when that conversation took place. You can read on our website the latest, and it will continually be updated on measles at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
As wildfires impact our province, keep up to date with CBC. For the latest information, listen to CBC Radio 1. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba or the CBC News app. For people who have a limited data plan or are running into spotty mobile service on the road, visit cbc.ca/lite. That's cbc.ca/LITE.
The latest on the wildfire situation, including what happened in Leaf Rapids, where the fire moving into community and firefighters having to leave overnight. That news coming will be updated in our news at 6:30 with Matt Humphrey. Right now in Winnipeg, it is cloudy. It is 17 degrees, a little sticky out there, a little smoky in the north, of course, and foggy around Winkler and Morden. In Winnipeg, a high of 25 with a risk of a thunderstorm. So take umbrellas if you're heading out to the Fringe, or maybe you want to head out to the Forks. Let's turn our attention to some brighter things right now. There's plenty of summer left, people. And if you're looking for outdoor activities, especially if you're staycationing, you might want to pay attention to the next interview, because the Forks is doing free outdoor fun for people of all ages. Now, not only are there activities, but there's people there to teach you how to do some of these things. So to explain, Blair Malistravich is in this morning, Communications and Marketing Manager for the Forks. And if we sound really friendly, it's because Blair used to work here at CBC. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well.
It's super good to see you.
It's great to be here.
Okay, so I want to know what you guys are teaching people. Like, what to name some of these activities?
Well, I joke that it turns out all the activities that they're choosing to do are things that I am not good at. So maybe that's a conspiracy. But the great thing about all these activities, there's people there.
There's others.
There's people there to teach you, right? So we have skateboarding, we have basketball, we have breakdancing, we have table tennis. There's also mushroom foraging, and then some nature-based crafting as well.
I love that. So let's break this down a little bit. How are you teaching, like, mushroom foraging? Is there a patch of land where that works, or will it be like a presentation that somebody will do? Or?
Yeah, so we have a public orchard that's right by the Children's Museum, and they're going to work through there, and you're going to find different types of mushrooms there and learn a lot about nature, which is really great too. So some great opportunities, and that's with the River City mushrooms.
And what about skateboarding? Obviously, you've got the skate park there. It said no experience needed. So this is like if you come with a little one who's interested, should people bring their own equipment though, like their own boards and helmets and such?
You're totally welcome to bring your own equipment, of course, but they do provide boards and helmets as well. For me, helmets are very important. When we were there for Canada Day, we were seeing all the people trying out skateboarding, and I even got my boss to try out some skateboarding. It turns out he used to skateboard a little bit, so he definitely showed me up for sure. But you see little kids that are like 5 and 6 going through the skate park, and it's just incredible how skilled they are, and they make it look easy. It's not.
I know. Well, they have a shorter fall if they go down.
That's true. The great thing is everyone's like super welcoming, and it's a great way for them to expand the sport and also just keep people active and moving in the summertime.
You guys are doing basketball, you mentioned, and also I understand, are you setting up ping pong tables?
So we have table tennis tables outside as well on the CN field, but we also have a couple tables inside the market if people want to play. So I joke, if you need the big space out in the field, like if you're a professional, they go really far back on those table tennis tables. But you can also do it inside the market as well. So
what led the Forks to want to get involved with offering, as I mentioned, free programming like this?
I think the biggest thing is the world is expensive, as we know, right? And especially whether you're, a family or just a couple or just a group of friends that want something to do that isn't a lot of money. This is great. Not only can you just come down and do one of these activities, but you can also take a tour with the Indigenous turtle tours that's happening. You can also just walk around and take in the beautiful weather, the scenery, the positive attitude that seems to be at the Forks. Everyone's just excited to be there. It's a really fascinating thing. What I love about the Forks for me is that I've lived in Manitoba my entire life. And before I started working there, I thought I knew everything about the Forks, and that is definitely not the case. So I would like to say to everyone, invite everyone to come down, like experience the Forks for the first time all over again, because there's always new things happening. There's always new things to see. So give it a shot.
That happened to me actually on my staycation a couple of weeks ago. I was at the Forks by myself one day, and I did exactly that. And the other thing is the travel center. We did this on Information Radio as a podcast too, the morning show, and we had a whole conversation about the travel center at the Forks, because people maybe don't always realize that if you're even planning another staycation, that's you can also do that while you're wandering around there with a coffee and stuff.
Yeah, there's just so many things to see and do, and the best part is just like embrace what Manitoba has to offer, embrace what Winnipeg has to offer, and the Forks is one of the best sites to come down and see.
In terms of some of the other things that are going on, we mentioned some really active things, ping pong and skateboarding, but you guys are also doing concerts and some lecture series as well, right?
Yeah, we have live music on Fridays. We also have lectures and loggers, so you can come down. We have a guest author that comes in and discusses their book, and then we have beer and wine from the Common that'll come up and serve, and it's really a great way for local artists to get exposure that way, and then people to talk about their books.
Do you think the Forks has arrived? I mean, what I mean by that is back in the day, the Forks, as it's evolved, a lot of people would kind of go to, and everyone knows I love Winnipeg, so don't say I'm down on the city, everybody. But, you might go to like Vancouver, another center that had like their Granville Island and such, and then come back to the Forks and go, oh, we're not quite evolved yet. Now when I go to the Forks, I kind of feel like we're there. It's changed so much if people haven't been in years.
It's amazing. One of my old jobs took me around the world. I've been in every continent except Antarctica, and I've seen a lot of those sites like you're mentioning. And since I've started there, just walking down in the Forks again, I'm realizing this is an incredible treasure that I think people need to come down and rediscover. I'm pumped to work there, and I'm pumped to talk about it, and I'm pumped for everyone to come down and check it out again. Rediscover it for the first time. It is the place to be for sure.
I think that Commons area, and then what you're describing about even the books and beer thing or whatever, like it's just a different texture in addition to all of the family-friendly things. What activities seem to be most popular? Just back to this list of free activities.
I think they're all popular. What's great about these opportunities? It's also opportunities for these local organizations to come down and bring the people who regularly frequent them and come down and do them at the Forks. So it's a lot of the same people who would use these regularly. But the skateboarding is always popular. We're seeing a lot of the basketball. The basketball was very popular on Canada Day, and it's just everyone's excited to be outside and do something for free. And I am very bad at basketball, but I learned a couple tips from people teaching from Basketball Manitoba, and I was sinking three-pointers that I never could sink.
Is that true?
Yes. Well, I sunk one or two. I'm not going pro. Not today.
I really wish, because we're on camera too, that we had a basketball in here so I could test you on
Yes.
that.
So
I don't think I've ever sunk a three-pointer in my life. I was a terrible basketball player.
Okay, so if let's not talk about ratios. Like I shot lots and lots and maybe only got three in. So, 400 shots and three in, but I didn't get those three before. So, I mean, this was great.
Okay, what was the tip? Because what if someone's listening and they want the tip? Was it positioning of your hands? Or
It is. The big thing is positioning of the wrists. And sometimes I was letting go too late, but they're pros. They'll educate you quickly.
I'm going to make sure I come down and I see that. Look at this. Well, look what's coming into studio right now.
Oh, this is embarrassing.
What is happening now? There's a basketball in my hands, radio listeners.
So the greatest thing about this too is you don't need to bring equipment with you. All the equipment's there. You can just come as yourself.
I'm the hoop.
Oh yeah, right in the face. That'll be brilliant.
It'll be good. It'll be good.
Okay, ready?
We have time for this. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, try it again.
Okay,
Whoop.
going pro.
Here comes the basketball. I'm trying to get it on camera. Okay, let's get the shot from my perspective now. Let's see. I'll be the hoop. Okay, here's me. Will you do it?
Yeah. I think that's
okay.
counts.
I think I
that's
moved.
Good enough.
I moved my arms.
You know
what?
what?
The hoop actually won't move.
I need to go down to the CN stage and get a little more lessons from the Basketball Manitoba to be better at that.
How often is this happening, Blair? And I mean, if people want to get involved, what should they know? We said it's free. So what time do you come down? Do you have to sign up? Like, what do you need to know about it?
All the schedule is on theforks.com/events, and you can check out which one interests you the most, and you can just come down. And the best part is to just walk in and say, "Hey, I'm ready to learn." Be open-minded and excited and positive, and you'll have a great time.
Are they mostly daily things going on? Like, would it be, or like if somebody comes after 7:00? Like these are day programs?
Well, there's day programs, there's night programs, there's kind of everything for everyone. A lot of them are some evening things. During Canada Day and things like that, we had more during the day, but we have a lot of evening events where people can come down to.
All right, superstar, take that, and maybe I'll see you at the dance class with Jeannie. I love that. Yeah. We didn't mention dance.
Well, it's pretty incredible, some of the things they do, and Jeannie is amazing. Like just like, I wish I could do the things that breakdancers do. But the thing is, you can learn simple steps, like 2 or 3 steps that can carry you through to the bigger moves in breakdancing and dancing. So he's got a great attitude, and just everyone's so open.
This is fun. I'm glad you're in. It's summertime and people are looking for things to do, in Manitoba right now, and a lot of staycationers.
Mm-hmm.
So appreciate you taking the early spot here before 6:30. Thank you. And being a trooper with that basketball. Blair Malistravich is now the Communications and Marketing Manager for The Forks. And if you want information on all the fun, free things we've been talking about, you can check out theforks.com, theforks.com. And as Blair said, you can also just wander down there and kind of plan some things, or maybe you'll wander into something with some guidance from those experts they have on site, which is very cool. We're kind of up to 6:30 here. I just want to mention that if you're on your morning commute, you might have some fog issues around Winkler and Morden this morning, so be careful. Also, of course, we have those ongoing issues with smoke to the north and around Leaf Rapids, as we're about to hear some major issues with wildfire developments overnight. So if you're going to be driving in any of these areas, you're going to want to pay attention to the maps first. 788-3093 on the commuter line if you do need us. After the news, we have business news specifically coming up, and we're going to hear more about yet another business that's ordering employees back into the office. So stay tuned. Right now, your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. At 6:30, we're at 17 degrees with mostly cloudy skies over downtown Winnipeg. We could see thunder later on. Good morning. I'm Matt Humphrey. Firefighters have been forced to flee the northern Manitoba town of Leaf Rapids. The town posted on Facebook last night saying wildfire entered the community after jumping the Churchill River. Irvin Biggity is the town's former mayor. He's now in Winnipeg with his family after an evacuation order earlier this month. CBC spoke to him last night, a few minutes after he heard the news.
The idea of returning home doesn't seem that realistic right now. Last time I heard it was like, we'll be out here for a couple of weeks. The fires should be combated, we should be dampened. We have lots of rain, winds are favorable, but that changes quickly in the day.
Biggity says he's not sure he'll have a home to return to when the wildfires are over. Town leadership says it'll provide an update once it has more information. A judge is expected to give her decision today in a sexual assault case involving 5 former Canadian junior hockey players. The case centers on the testimony of a woman who said she was assaulted in a London, Ontario hotel room over several hours in 2018. Brandon Trask is an associate law professor at the University of Manitoba. He says 2 videos in which the woman appeared to give consent are almost useless because they were recorded after the sexual encounters.
If something took place and then there's a video afterwards, again, the video afterwards is generally speaking not going to be given much, if any, weight, in large part because there are all sorts of questions about, were there other factors involved? Was there undue pressure being placed? Things that weren't caught on video.
Even if no individual is found guilty, Trask says none of the accused players should be proud of their actions that day. A Winnipeg nonprofit says a councillor's motion to ban encampments in some public places does little to address homelessness in the city. Councillor Cindy Gilroy wants to stop people camping in public places where children gather, like parks and community gardens, and another councillor wants that ban to include major roads. Main Street Project Executive Director Jamil Mahmood says the motion may force people to move into areas that are hard to access, making it harder to provide them services. Mahmood says his group wants to collaborate with the city.
Let's co-create responses that work for everybody in our city, but also don't dehumanize or hide homelessness, because hiding it doesn't solve the problem.
Mahmood says the city needs more long-term housing options. 3 miners this morning are waiting to be rescued from a northern British Columbia mine. They've been trapped in the Red Chris mine since Tuesday. Dwayne Tennant is a geotechnical engineering professor at the University of British Columbia. He says the miners are in a refuge station underground.
There'll be a large table and benches, probably some cots if you have to stay multiple days, someplace to sleep that's more comfortable than on a table or the floor. Sources of water, it probably had running water for washing hands.
One of the trapped miners is from Ontario and 2 are from BC. Operations at the mine have ceased at this time. A Labour leader and longtime city employee has entered the race to fill the vacant seat on Winnipeg City Council. Carmen Prefontaine is bidding to replace Jason Schreier in Elmwood, East Kildonan. Schreier died suddenly in April. Prefontaine is vice president of the Canadian Union of Public Employees, but says her experience with the city is an asset.
I work with finance, I work with safety, health and wellness. I am aware of the budgeting processes. I'm aware of so much of the infrastructure issues, many of the issues obviously through the union that are issues with labor management. I feel like that aspect of me is a huge contributing factor to being successful in this role.
So far, Prefontaine is joined on the ballot by urban, forest, and housing advocate Emma Durand-Wood and child care assistant Zachariah Saladin. The by-election is slated for October 25th. And finally, the Manitoba and federal governments have announced measures to support livestock producers affected by drought. Officials say the Manitoba Agricultural Services Corporation will help provide cash flow for producers needing to secure additional feed. The changes include deferred premium reductions and changes around grazing practices. Officials say the corporation will also offer loan payment deferrals. And that's your CBC News from Winnipeg. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks very much, Matt.
Back soon.
That is Matt Humphrey in our news department. All right, let's have a look at what's happening in the weather forecast. Here in Winnipeg, a mix of sun and cloud today. 30% chance of showers early this morning and late into the afternoon as well. Risk of a thunderstorm in this afternoon's forecast as well. It will be hazy and a high of 25. Tonight, partly cloudy, chance of showers continuing. Then we clear out. But tomorrow, we have fog patches possible when we're getting up because those will develop near midnight. We'll see if they stay through. Most of the day, though, tomorrow for your Friday in Winnipeg will be sunny, and then the fog should die off by the morning, a little later in the morning. Tomorrow's high is going to be 30, so hot and windy, really hot tomorrow. Humidex 38 in Winnipeg. Currently, it's cloudy and 17 degrees. Now, this is your regional forecast, so let me get you around the province here. In Brandon right now, it's partly cloudy, it's 13. And for you today in Brandon, a mix of sun and cloud, chance of showers, risk of a thunderstorm, fog patches, high 26, very similar to Winnipeg. Also partly cloudy tonight with a risk of a storm and fog, low 14. And tomorrow, you guessed it, it'll be sunny in Brandon in the morning. And then tomorrow for your Friday, expecting early afternoon, another chance of showers just moving in, but a 30% chance. So we'll see what develops. Tomorrow also really hot in Brandon, high of 30, Humidex 38. And now to the north, Thompson, partly cloudy and 2 degrees, just 2 degrees. That's your cold spot in the province. Mainly sunny today, no showers in sight, although we need them there. And local smoke in the air across the north, but especially Thompson. A high of 23 degrees is what you're expecting. Clear tonight in Thompson, low 10. Tomorrow in Thompson, you are expecting to get wet. Showers or thunderstorms beginning in the morning and a high of 22. So that's what it's looking like. The smoke warning, all of the province obviously can feel this, but mostly in the north. And then that fog advisory is specifically centered around Winkler and Morden. So really thick fog around that area. If you're in that area and you're having an issue with the commute because of the fog, can you let us know? 788-3093. All right, that's your regional forecast on CBC. It's time now to turn our attention to the commute with Sierra Sanders.
Good morning, Marcy. I'm in a different chair today. I'm sitting in Abby's chair, actually, in the studios. We've had a little bit of a shuffling around. So far, not too much going on or developing on the commute this morning. But if that is not the case and there is something getting in your way, whether you are in the city or out on the highway, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. I have it right next to me here behind the board, so I will be able to take your call. That number is 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks very much, Sierra.
Thank you.
It is 23 minutes to 7 o'clock. Sierra Sanders, our director, and today helping to tech the show as well and covering your commute. Also, good morning to Brad Lillies and to a new team member with us today. Well, new to me. I know that Ezeka's been here while I was off, but Ezeka Abzelatif, good morning to you. Ezeka's behind the controls of our YouTube stream, so say a big hello if you're on there. And then also to our news department this morning, and in our news department, Bryce Hoy, Alana Cole, and Matt Humphrey, who we just heard. Well, in business news, Crystalie Ramlakan joins us now with our report this morning. Good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Marcy.
So we've been continually talking on this report about, different companies that are ordering people back to the office for in-person work. Who's making news this morning on that front?
Yeah, so TD Bank, it says it's going to require employees to be in the office 4 days a week, adding to the number of banks doing so. So TD says staff at the associate vice president level and above will be expected in the office more often starting October 6th, and non-executive workers will largely be required to start coming in more as of November 3rd, so a little bit later there. Now, the bank says it has found working in person helps collaboration, decision-making, learning and outcomes, and aids in career development and company culture. Now, RBC, BMO, and Scotiabank are making moves to have people in the office 4 days a week starting in September already. But, some banks have noted that the policy depends on when office space is available. We've heard that about some other, workplaces where people are hot desking, right? And they come in, they don't necessarily have a place to sit. And TD says many of its locations will be ready for the November 3rd change, but others will take more time. So some teams may be on a different timeline.
Let's go to another business story this morning. Uber is rolling out a new feature to allow riders to book women drivers. Tell us a bit more about this.
Yeah, so it's the company's latest move to try to address safety. So the new tool allows women passengers to match with women drivers and to create that preference in the app's settings. Women drivers can also choose to drive women. And the company says the rider's preference isn't guaranteed, though, but says it will increase the chances of women being paired in the app. Of course, there's fewer women drivers than male drivers out there. So Uber will begin piloting the program in the U.S., in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Detroit next month. The feature actually already has been tested in France, Germany, and Argentina. And in 2019, it rolled out the feature in Saudi Arabia after women won the right to drive there in 2018. So, over the years, though, ride-hailing companies have faced safety concerns and questions over the roles that these platforms have played in various sexual assault and harassment incidents. And competitor Lyft launched a similar option in late 2023 that pairs women and non-binary drivers and riders.
And finally, before we look at the markets and numbers this morning, some teens, I understand, say that they're turning to artificial intelligence for more than schoolwork.
Yeah, that's right. So some say they are turning to the technology for friendship. So a new study says teenagers are increasingly interacting with AI as if it were a companion capable of providing advice. So more than 70% of teens have used AI companions and half use them regularly, according to a new study from Common Sense Media, which is a group that studies and advocates for using screens and digital media sensibly, it says. So the study defines AI companions as platforms designed to serve as digital friends like character AI or replica, which can be customized with specific traits or personalities to make it, seem like you're actually speaking to another human. But researchers say popular sites like ChatGPT, which mainly answer questions, are being used in the same way. So the survey says almost a third of teens said their conversations with AI companions were as satisfying or more satisfying than talking with real friends. And even though half of teens say they distrust AI's advice, a third had discussed serious or important issues with AI instead of real people. So as the technology gets more sophisticated, experts worry about AI's potential to redefine human relationships and to possibly intensify a crisis of loneliness and mental health issues that some young people are facing these days.
We had a huge conversation about this in our story meeting yesterday, the role of AI in any kind of companionship, and then the potential negative effects, but also the potential positive effects. But it does speak to, what you're saying. This is obviously finding its way into our world in a bigger way because of, the crisis that we have with loneliness, etc. So we'll have to see what happens next. What is happening in the markets this morning, Christelle?
Yeah, so in Europe, stocks are opening higher with optimism that an EU-US trade deal is imminent. So Germany is up, the UK is up France is up. In Asia, stocks are climbing. Japan is up. Shanghai is up. Hong Kong is up. Oil is up at 58 cents to 65.83 U.S. per barrel. Gold is down 23.80 to $3,361.90 U.S. per ounce. And the dollar is down 0.07 of a cent to 73.5 cents U.S.
All right, Crystal Lee, take care. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcy.
That is Crystal Lee Ramlichan. She joins us every morning with business news on CBC. Well, a bit of local music for you next on the show. Winnipeg's own Lindsay Sayas has a new single out, and it is perfect for summertime. Her style's pop, R&B, and you might recall, if you know her work, Lindsay Sayas' work, she released 2 Hot Weeks of You back in June. That's ahead of her upcoming EP called Glitter Cowgirl, and that's coming out on August 1st. So this morning we have a track for you, and this one is the one I mentioned, 2 Hot Weeks of You.
First days felt great, you and me just dancing with the stars. Summer fling ain't no thing without it ending in a broken heart. Sweet as summer, hot as July, quicker than you can say goodbye. Well, it was 2 hot weeks of you. Oh my God, oh this forecast has been rude. If you're a ghost, then I'm a corpse. I'm a lover, scorched in leather and somebody new. Well, it was 2 hot weeks of you. Tippy toes, red rose. You tricked me to jump in a lava pool. Heart throb, day job. It's like you do this for a living. Now how cruel. Sweet as summer, hot as July, quicker than you can say goodbye. Well, it was 2 hot weeks of you. Oh my God, oh this forecast has been rude. If you're a ghost, then I'm a corpse. I'm a lover, scorched in leather and somebody new. Well, it was 2 hot weeks of you. Oh my God, we'll talk about a failed interview. If you're in the sun, it'd be like sight. This was nice, we're going with a different attitude. Well, it was 2 hot weeks of you. 2 hot weeks of you. 2 hot weeks. It was 2 hot weeks of you. Oh my God, oh this forecast has been rude. If you're a ghost, then I'm a corpse. I'm a lover, scorched in leather and somebody new. Well, it was 2 hot weeks of 2 hot weeks of you. Oh my God, I'll talk about a failed interview. If you're in the sun, you'd be like sight. This was nice, we're going with a different attitude. Well, it was 2 hot weeks of you.
We mentioned summer vibes. That's Winnipeg's Lindsay Sayas with 2 Hot Weeks of You. Keep an ear out, as I mentioned, for her full EP. It's coming out August 1st.
Personally, from CBC Podcasts, allows you to get lost in someone else's life. From a mysterious childhood spent on the run to a courageous escape from domestic violence, each season of Personally invites you to explore the human experience in all its complexity, one story or season at a time. This is what it sounds like to be human. Find Personally on the CBC Listen app and everywhere you get your podcasts.
If it happened today, find out today. That's the power of having the news in your hand. Get late-breaking news from reporters across the country, straight to your mobile device. Customize your experience with news from your region. and what matters to you. Whether it's big headlines, detailed articles, live events, or on-demand video, CBC News has got you covered. Connect to the world. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca.
Well, let's talk just for a moment about what is happening in the news in Manitoba this morning. If you are just waking up and joining Information Radio here on CBC, firefighters have been forced to flee the northern Manitoba town of Leaf Rapids. The town posted on Facebook last night saying that wildfire entered the community after jumping the Churchill River. So our news department has been reaching out to different officials, and we will hear from the town's former mayor coming up here in the news and in news headlines locally on the program. We also, coming up, are going to be hearing more from some different residents, at least we hope to be. We are reaching out to some different people that we have spoken with in the past on CBC, who we understand were obviously taking the news in last night. So we'll get some of that coverage for you and the very latest of what we understand about what's happening with fires. The rain situation isn't great in northern Manitoba today. We are expecting in Winnipeg another 30% chance of showers late this afternoon and risk of thunderstorm. But in the north, in Thompson today, for example, and up around that area and others, it looks like it's just going to be mainly sunny and clear. So you're going to have to wait for rain a little bit longer. Some could arrive tomorrow on Friday, so things may get wet up north. I also want to mention a story that we have coming up after 7 o'clock. This is super interesting. I don't know about you, but I probably started really using those QR codes, those funny little looking squares that you hold your phone up to access menus during COVID, because we didn't have those paper menus. So when restaurants started coming back, nobody wanted to touch anything, and so you would sort of do it digitally. Now QR codes, of course, are absolutely everywhere, whether you're buying something or returning something, paying for parking. But scammers have figured that out too. So they are turning simple scans into serious security risks. So we're going to have more about what's been going on with the QR codes and more about how you can protect yourself. And that's coming up here on CBC right after 7 o'clock. Right now, there's a new trend fizzing up in the soda world that we talked about on the business news this week. Prebiotic pop. It's taking over the shelves. It promises gut health with every sip. We're talking about the irony of that, drinking pop and promising gut health. But major brands like Pepsi have been most recently jumping on board. So we wanted to dig into this a little this morning. What are prebiotics? Why are so many people obsessed with them? Remember, it used to be in our yogurt. That was the whole deal. Now it's in our drinks. Abby Langer's here to talk about it, registered dietitian and author of Good Food, Bad Diet. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so let's start with the simple stuff. What are prebiotics?
So prebiotics are different from probiotics. Probiotics are the good gut bacteria that live in our microbiome. Okay, so prebiotics feed those probiotics.
So what's in our yogurt? Did I screw that up? Is it probiotic that's in our yogurt? Okay.
Probiotics, but it's important to note that not all yogurt is probiotic.
Got it. Why do I want prebiotics in my body? Or not?
Yeah, so you want to feed those good gut bugs because they've been shown to be linked to all sorts of good health outcomes, right? And science is just at the tip of the iceberg now in terms of gut health and what we know, but we do know that having a healthy microbiome is key to good health.
And how would I get it naturally? I mean, before we move to the products that are presumably they added into these products, but how would I get it naturally, Abby?
Yeah, so prebiotics are a type of fiber, and they're in some fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, and lentils. If you have a diet that's rich in whole foods, rich in plants, you should be getting plenty of prebiotics.
And why are they becoming so popular in products like soda that otherwise wouldn't have them present?
Money. It's marketing, right? Companies see that gut health is huge. It's a huge buzzword. People will purchase products for more money that have that claim on them that it's good for health. And so they're just stepping up.
Are there any downsides, especially, with anything like this that occurs naturally and then it gets added?
Yeah.
Sometimes, we're eating a whole bunch of vegetables, we're getting enough prebiotics maybe, and then I'm adding it in soda now. Like, are there any downsides? Can you have too much of this?
So most functional foods, which are things like this pop where they add fiber and call it prebiotic, Most of these prebiotic functional foods have what we call inulin in them, and inulin is a prebiotic fiber. However, it can cause a lot of gas and a lot of bloating and discomfort to people if they consume too much. Some people just don't tolerate it at all. So that would be a downside. But I think really equally as important in terms of downsides is the fact that people will think that these drinks are healthy and nutritious and that they should be getting all of their fiber from them or most of their fiber from them, when in fact the opposite is true. I mean, I wouldn't say that these drinks are nutritious. They do have fewer calories, lower sugar, but they're not what I would say, like, you should be drinking it all day long. Yeah, and it's such a health halo and so much marketing.
When you're putting a product like that in your body, like if you're choosing a prebiotic pop,
right?
You mentioned some of the other things that you have to consider, that you're also adding sugar and such. So ideally, would you be getting this just from your veggies?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, while I guess if you're looking at consuming a can of regular Pepsi versus a can of prebiotic Pepsi, it has, maybe the prebiotic Pepsi has 30 calories or 50 calories and 5 grams of sugar. And the regular Pepsi has a lot more, but it's an improvement. But I would say, you know what, drink water, eat your vegetables. I know it sounds boring, but that's really the recommendation that has never changed, right?
Obviously, everyone's gut biome and our bodies are so vastly different that there may not be an answer to this. But is there a level of prebiotics that, the average person should have in their body? Because if I picked up a can of this stuff, or even if I went to get vegetables, I wouldn't really know how much prebiotic I'm putting in or how much I should put into my body.
Right. So, I mean, I think the best way to look at it is everybody should be consuming at least 25 to 38 grams of fiber per day, which is a lot, and most of us get a fraction of that. You don't have to worry about how much of each type of fiber you're getting if you're eating an overall fiber-rich diet.
Olipop is another brand that is named in this. Poppy, which is owned by Pepsi, and they're pretty popular when you look at. You mentioned marketing. When you look at Gen Z consumers, how much of these products coming online like this is young people being more health conscious, and how much is maybe it's a chicken and egg argument maybe that the marketing is feeding the need for this.
It's both. It's totally both. I mean, if you look at the consumers, yes, I think the younger generations are more impressionable. I think they believe marketing claims more than someone like Gen X would, people from Gen X. And I don't see these drinks being advertised in the traditional media. They're all, I think, online. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're more like for the TikTok generation. I think that generation has grown up with so much health information at their fingertips, whereas we didn't. And they're so much more aware of what they're putting in their bodies. They want to hack everything, and and it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's just marketing.
Well, thank you for giving us the caution to be careful, look at the labels, understand what you're doing when you pick one of these, and people will make their choices. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
So that's Abby Langer elaborating on a story we had in Business News this week about these prebiotic pops now, soft drinks. Abby is a registered dietitian and the author of Good Food, Bad Diet. It is now 3 minutes to 7 o'clock. Stay tuned. We're going to hear the very latest about those miners, the diggers that are underground still in the rescue operation that's underway here in Canada. But right now, let's go to local Manitoba headlines with Matt Humphrey.
Good morning. A judge's decision is expected today in the sexual assault trial of 5 former members of Canada's World Junior Hockey team. The 5 former players were charged following an encounter that took place in London, Ontario in June of 2018. The accused have all pleaded not guilty. The trial involved 8 weeks of testimony with 9 witnesses, most remotely, including the complainant. At the bottom of the hour, we'll hear from a University of Manitoba law professor who calls the case an onion and rare in its complexity. More after World Report.
All right, thank you, Matt.
Back soon.
It is 17 in Winnipeg. It's cloudy, as I've been mentioning, a risk of a thunderstorm late this afternoon and a high 25. Your commute's going pretty well this morning, but we do know that there's obviously smoke issues and there's a fog advisory in effect. The fog is affecting Winkler-Morden, so that could affect your drive. Give us a call if you're having any issues on your commute, whether you're walking, biking, or driving. 788-3093 is the commuter line, and you can reach Sierra on it. And we'll pass along your tips. Well, as I mentioned in the next hour of the show, much more in Leaf Rapids and what developed there overnight as the firefighters have now left that community in northern Manitoba, and the fire has jumped over a critical road. So we're keeping track of what's happening there. In addition, in the next hour of the show, we'll have that information about QR code scams. They're called quishing scams, so we'll learn more about how they came up with that word and also how they're catching some Canadians off guard. Plus, if you were at Folk Fest, you might have noticed a phone booth called a Confessional booth. Maybe you left a confession yourself. Well, since the festival ended, it's been getting a lot of attention on social media. We're going to hear more about the project, and we'll talk to the person behind the telephone line. And then the ongoing series we've been having this week on the show about trying to help people who are living homeless in Winnipeg get roofs over their heads when, as the mayor said, we can't build fast enough. Yesterday, we looked at whether or not rentals could be part of the solution here, what landlords would need to help to free up space. Today, we're going to talk to someone who was in the Housing First program a decade ago. What do wraparound supports mean to him?
Today on The Current.
I just signed the largest trade deal in history. I think maybe the largest deal in history with Japan.
Hi, I'm Pia Chattopadhyay. The deadline is looming for Canada to reach a trade deal with the U.S. We'll speak to one premier about what was achieved at this week's First Ministers meeting and where we go from here. Coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. After 8 weeks of testimony, 2 juries, 1 mistrial, and a lot of twists and turns, a judge will deliver her decisions in the trial of 5 former World Junior hockey players today. The case is being followed closely by the hockey world, legal community, and women's rights advocates. Karen Pauls has been following the trial in London, Ontario.
In an empty law classroom at the University of Manitoba, Associate Professor Brandon Trask is already preparing lesson plans that include this high-profile and highly unusual trial.
It's exceptionally rare to have essentially 2 different juries selected and then discharged.
Michael McLeod, Alex Formanton, Carter Hart, Dylan Dubé, and Cal Foote are charged with sexually assaulting a woman known under a publication ban as EM in a London, Ontario hotel room in June 2018. They have all pleaded not guilty. The case centers on the issue of consent, and there's been much discussion about 2 consent videos McLeod recorded towards the end of the night.
Consent needs to be contemporaneous with the actions, what took place. Video afterwards is generally speaking not going to be given much, if any, weight, in large part because there are all sorts of questions about was there undue pressure being placed.
Daphne Gilbert is a law professor at the University of Ottawa. She says it's possible the judge will find EM did not consent, but that the accused had an honest mistaken belief that she did. The judge must believe the accused took reasonable steps to confirm consent.
I'm hoping that if reasonable steps are an issue here, that we will get perhaps some new and additional clarification on what's required in situations like this, where the parties are totally strangers to each other. There was a lot of alcohol involved, multiple parties in the room.
If nothing else, Gilbert hopes the case will educate Canadians on what consent really is. Karen Pauls, CBC News, London, Ontario.
Experts say rescue operations at the Red Chris mine in northern BC require a cautious approach, and it could take days to free the 3 miners trapped underground. Here is UBC geotechnical engineering professor Dwayne Tennant.
They'll be very systematic about bringing the right equipment, the right personnel with experience to stabilize the tunnel. And I suspect they're going to have to then pull out the debris, and they'll do that in a series of stages.
Red Chris is an open-pit copper and gold mine. The miners were drilling underground when it collapsed on Tuesday. CBC's Callie McTavish has traveled to the site in Tahltan territory. She brings us the latest.
It's surprisingly quiet at the entrance gate to the Red Chris mine. No unusual activity to indicate the rescue operation happening underground. People at the gas station in Iskut say all they know about the incident they heard on the news. The mine is located on Tahltan territory. Truck drivers waiting to bring their materials up say so far the company has been tight-lipped. A source with direct knowledge of the rescue operation told CBC there was an initial incident that happened Tuesday evening that forced the workers to seek refuge further into the mine. The 3 workers immediately went to a refuge station equipped with water, food, and air, enough to sustain 16 people for 3 days. A second collapse of earth shortly after severed communication lines. Newmont, the mine's major shareholder, confirmed this but would not reveal their names to respect their privacy and that of their families. The company did say one of the people trapped is from Ontario and 2 are from BC. A spokesperson said in a statement that operations at the mine have ceased while the company focuses on resuming contact and rescuing the drillers. Callie McTavish, CBC News, near Iskut, British Columbia.
At least 12 people in Thailand have been killed in cross-border fighting with Cambodia. People run for cover in the southern province of Sur. An incoming fire from Cambodia has hit their village. The latest conflict began in May after a Cambodian soldier was killed in a clash along a disputed border region. It has since escalated, with Thailand attacking with fighter jets and Cambodia firing rockets. Thailand has closed its entire border with Cambodia and told its nationals there to leave. Tens of thousands of Thais are also being evacuated from their homes along the Cambodian border. Each side accuses the other of starting the violence. The long-standing dispute dates back more than a century. It began when the 2 nations drew their border during French colonial rule of Cambodia. Israeli officials describe the latest ceasefire proposal from Hamas as workable. They did not give details, only saying it is being studied. This comes as U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is due to meet with Israeli and Qatari officials in Rome today. As these talks begin, there is growing international outrage over starvation in Gaza. The CBC's Crystal Gomansing has more.
Another day with plumes of smoke rising over the Gaza skyline. Along with bombs and bullets, starvation, says the head of the World Health Organization, is killing people.
We're now witnessing a deadly surge in malnutrition-related deaths.
Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says over the past week, severe acute malnutrition centers have been full but lack sufficient supplies for emergency feedings. He says the WHO this year has documented 21 deaths related to malnutrition of children under the age of 5. Canada is one of the many nations saying hunger in Gaza has reached catastrophic levels and is calling for a ceasefire and hostage release deal. On the ground in Gaza, Israel's President Isaac Herzog visited with his defense forces Wednesday, telling them the most urgent mission for Israel is the return of hostages and that intensive negotiations are underway.
We want this ceasefire to happen as soon as possible, and we want these hostages to be released.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt highlighted American expectations ahead of talks in Rome. If talks go well between Steve Witkoff and senior officials from Israel and Qatar, the U.S. Special Envoy will head to the Middle East. Crystal Gomansing, CBC News, London.
This is the biggest and most economically significant trade deal that the UK has made since leaving the EU.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer praising a major trade deal with India. Speaking alongside his Indian counterpart, Starmer says the agreement will create thousands of jobs in the UK. During his comments, Narendra Modi called this a historic day. The deal is worth an estimated £6 billion and was 3 years in the making. Starmer says the current global trade climate demands a new approach.
We've entered a new global era. And that is one that requires us to step up, not to stand aside, to deliver for the British people by building deeper partnerships and alliances. And today is very much confirmation of that approach.
The deal will reduce India's average tariff on British goods from 15% to 3%. That will bring prices down on clothes, shoes, and food. India will also see cheaper prices on cars, medical technology, and some food and drink. Prime Minister Mark Carney is in the Arctic this morning speaking to Inuit leaders. It is part of ongoing talks about his new major projects legislation. Carney has an ambitious plan to build infrastructure and resource projects faster. But as David Thurton reports, he could face some opposition to those plans in the north.
This could be contentious, or it could be a moment in time where we come together and bring our homeland into Canada in a way that never has happened before.
Natan Obed is the president of Inuit Tapiri Kanatami, the national organization that represents Inuit people. Obed is unsure if his meeting later today with Prime Minister Mark Carney in Inuvik will be rocky or productive. Much of the time will focus on Ottawa's legislation to build big things and fast. The new law offers upfront approvals before the Crown fulfills its duty to consult with Indigenous peoples.
And if the government does choose to not follow our modern treaties and the processes within them, we will have recourse. And that's something that will be very clearly articulated to the Prime Minister.
Among Northern politicians, though, there's a willingness to back nation-building projects. PJ Akiagok, Nunavut's premier, has pitched several.
And we've really brought not only shovel-worthy projects, but shovel-ready projects that are being led by Indigenous organizations.
Many of these projects, such as all-weather roads and deep-water ports, are basic infrastructure that the rest of Canada tends to take for granted. There's hope among some Northerners Carney's Build Big and Fast agenda can help fill some of their vast infrastructure gaps. David Thurton, CBC News, Inuvik.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. If you like the World Report podcast, follow us and tell a friend. It helps spread the word. I'm Marcia Young.
A mixed bag of conditions over Manitoba this Thursday morning. We have rain that's just started in Winnipeg, lots of fog and smoke around Portage and Winkler, as well as haze to the north. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us here on Information Radio, your morning show on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. Well, we do have developing news from overnight around the wildfires in the town of Leaf Rapids. Matt Humphrey in with just a moment to update us on what has happened there. In addition, we're going to be talking about houselessness. It's an ongoing series of conversations we've had this week. Yesterday, we asked if landlords could be part of a short-term solution before housing starts get built to move people from encampments into different conditions. But one of the things that continues to come up is the need for wraparound supports, which is what the province has been looking at. Today, we're going to hear from someone who was formerly unhoused. What do wraparound supports actually mean to a person that is transitioning? So stay tuned. We're going to hear more about that. That's before 8. Also, QR codes, they're popping up everywhere. You're probably scanning them, maybe even on a daily, if not a weekly basis here for sure. But there's scammers that are turning those scans into serious security risks. In a moment, we're going to hear about how they operate and how you can stay safe from scanning menus to parking meters. So stay tuned. Right now, here is Matt Humphrey. As I mentioned, we do have developing news in the wildfire situation. Hi, Matt.
Good morning. Leaf Rapids is evacuating all firefighters and essential workers after an out-of-control wildfire entered the northern community. Last night, town leadership says the fire jumped the river, the Churchill River, spreading through the industrial area of the town. And officials say firefighters may not be returning to the community for some time. At the bottom of the hour, we'll hear from the Leaf Rapids former mayor. He's now in Winnipeg after an evacuation order. It's a fast-moving situation. We'll get the latest. And the organization Main Street Project says a motion before Winnipeg City Council meant to ban encampments in places where children gather will do little to address homelessness. Main Street says the motion would only force people to move around a lot, not get anyone into more permanent housing, and could see people move into harder to access areas or private property. More at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Back soon.
Just before traffic and weather, I want to read some comments here. I've been on the town of Leaf Rapids page since they posted last night about this news. That town, by the way, about 300 residents live there, and it's about 155 kilometers northwest of Thompson. It first declared a state of local emergency on July 7th, and that had been after actually earlier in the year having challenges with fire getting close. But overnight, the town of Leaf Rapids posting, this is part of the post, there are no words, is one of the things that was posted. Some 500 people have been sharing the news back and forth on socials and more, and a lot of prayers. Candy Moore simply posting, I'm glad everyone got out safely. Jennifer Anderson saying prayers for the town of Leaf Rapids. I'm so sorry. Bonnie Beischer saying very sad news, prayers for Leaf Rapids. And thinking of everyone, Darla says, and sending prayers. And finally, Philip Weir saying, hoping for a miracle. So we're watching the weather carefully. We need winds to shift. We need some rain up north. And we'll keep on top of Leaf Rapids. We also are reaching out to some residents that are here in Winnipeg to hear more about how they're absorbing the news and what they need. So stay tuned. Let's get to that weather forecast now. The rain has started in Winnipeg. It is 17 degrees right now. Our high today is 25 with haze, mix of sun and cloud in the forecast, and a chance of a thunderstorm late this afternoon. In Brandon right now, it's partly cloudy and 12. In Dauphin right now, it's sunny and 11 degrees. In Thompson right now, it is partly cloudy and it is 6 degrees. There is a fog advisory in effect for Winkler and Morden, as I alluded to, and it could be very thick. We haven't had calls from the roadway so far, but if you're down around that area of Manitoba commuting and you're having a problem, give us a call. If you're not having a problem, give us a call. Just let us know if fog is an issue or not for you. 788-3093 is where you can reach us. And let's talk about what we've heard so far. Sierra Sanders is actually covering the commute. That's where kind of weather and traffic come together. Sierra, what's up now?
Not too much is developing out there right now, Marcy. It sounds like things are moving along despite the slick weather that we're seeing here in downtown Winnipeg. But if that is not the case and there is something getting in your way, whether you are here in the city or out on the highways, whether you're seeing fog, you're seeing rain, we want to know what's happening out there, or maybe you're seeing something good. I think we could maybe use a little bit of good news in this time. So I'm here right by the phone. It's in a different area than I usually have it. It's right beside me here behind the board, but I'm here ready to take your call, whether it's good news, whether you're seeing something out there on the roads. You can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. The number is 204-788-3093.
Well, as I mentioned, you see QR codes everywhere now. Parking meters, restaurants, tables, even taped to lampposts in some cases. Maybe you've even seen some on programs for the Fringe if you're out and about doing that this week in Winnipeg. Those are those little black and white squares. We scan them without a second thought, usually. But increasingly, they are now being used in a type of scam. It's known as quishing. Avery Swartz is a tech educator and joins us for her insights on the scam and how to protect yourself. Hi there.
Good morning.
What's quishing? Am I even saying it right?
You are. Quishing is, what a word. It is, imagine if you take the Q from QR codes and combine it with the word phishing. So we're not talking about going out in the boat. We're talking about the cyber crime of phishing, which listeners are probably familiar with. It's the idea that, you could click a malicious link that is sent oftentimes in an email or a text message. But the thing about QR codes is they take you to a link, and you don't even necessarily know where it's going to take you until you're already there. So take the idea of phishing, trying to get someone to click a malicious link, apply it to a QR code, and that's how you get quishing.
How does it work to hurt people or potentially harm people? Like, where is it happening the most?
So when you click a malicious link through a QR code, it's not going to just siphon all the information out of your phone involuntarily. It's going to take information that you voluntarily give up. So what usually happens is there is some sort of very convincing website that seems completely legit. And oftentimes when you're using a QR code. You're on your phone. You're on the go. There's a sense of urgency. You want to do something like pay for your parking really quick. So you just enter your name, maybe a password, financial information, credit card info, and then before you realize it, you have given up that information to a malicious website as opposed to the more authoritative site that you thought you were giving it to.
So this is obviously, going to become an increasing issue because it's during the pandemic we started scanning for all the menus. People still have that in many places. You mentioned parking. Even I noticed Amazon, where a lot of people still continue to shop, of course, me included. You could be on there and they've got to scan the code for a return thing. Like these codes are everywhere now. Is it right that in I think it's in Alberta they've been some scammers have been actually sticking fake QR codes on the meters?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's literally a sticker. And so the thing about QR codes is you can't tell just by looking at it, what's going to happen, where it's going to take you. But what you can tell is if there's any sort of physical tampering. So if you literally see a sticker that has been placed over something else, your spidey sense should be going off saying, that looks a little bit suspicious to me. Like, do not scan that QR code.
So the sticker's easy, but since you said they're not easy to sort of decipher, there's no way to, look at this and tell it's a fake code. If it takes you to a website, then should we all be mindful of every time we scan a QR code to look at things on that website and make sure it's verifiable?
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, I try and avoid them whenever possible. So if there is an alternative way to access a website, so, in the example of consumer packaging, where there might be a QR code and then there might be a web address posted literally right next to it. I know it's a little bit more laborious. You have to actually type out the web address, but I do that. Or in the case of parking, I download a parking app and use the official parking app instead of scanning a QR code. If you do have to scan a QR code, consider scanning it using a different app than just the camera in your smartphone. And the one that I recommend is Google Lens. So Google Lens is built into Android phones, and on iPhones you can download it from the App Store. And what it does is it's just a camera that's powered by Google, and it sends information from what the camera sees back to Google's databases to verify it. So if it is a malicious link, then a kind of a warning or a pop-up could come up and say, don't actually tap this. This isn't what you think it is. And then, if you are clicking through on a QR link, look at the web address. And this is really hard to do on a smartphone where, the web address is usually very small. But if it doesn't seem like a completely official, .com, .ca, if there's a lot of weird gobbledygook and weird letters and misspellings in a web address, that can be another tell that you are on a malicious website.
What are they stealing particularly? Like you mentioned this at the beginning, but just to reiterate, if you do get caught by this, what are the people who are quishing taking from us?
So, I mean, it's basically any information that you voluntarily give up under false pretenses. So if you happen to give your name, your email address, your password, that could be compromised. Your credit card information could be compromised. I personally fell for a phishing scam a few months ago, a very sophisticated one that was a copycat website. This was not a QR code. I clicked something in a social media link that took me to a copycat website of a clothing company that was so slick. It looked exactly like the official website. It totally fooled me, and I'm a professional, and it got me. And I didn't realize until a full day later, after I thought I was buying a sweater, and I fully completed the transaction. I gave my credit card information. Took me a full day to realize, oh gosh, I think I just got scammed.
How did you realize?
It was that I didn't receive a follow-up email with shipping information.
Yep.
I was like, oh, when's that sweater? That's that cute sweater I'm looking forward to. When's it going to arrive? I went to my email and I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't get a confirmation. Then I went back to the website and I went, wait a minute, this website doesn't even exist anymore. And then I went, oh gosh.
Yeah.
And I called my bank. I called my credit card company. They were able to reverse the charge. So, it's fine. But it was a bit of I felt a bit ashamed. And so it's important that we talk about this stuff.
Yeah, it really is, because people do feel shame, but you know what? It's happening to everybody. So
Yeah.
this is nothing to feel shamed about. We just need to share the information on how to be safer.
Absolutely.
Obviously, watching passwords. I love that you mentioned that app. I think you said that will help.
Yeah,
so
Google
you're not
Lens.
using Google
Yep.
Lens. Are there any other apps that you would recommend, or are they just sort of in their infancy now, and there's not that many to help with this quishing?
I mean, you can do a search for like QR code scanning app, and there are a few other ones out there. I like Google Lens because it's so ubiquitous. And I trust it. Like I know that it's legitimate. And it's all of the regular cybersecurity stuff that we already know. Strong passwords, multi-factor authentication. Trusting your gut and your spidey sense. If something seems a little bit off, just pause for a minute, because it is often in those moments of urgency that is when people are more likely to fall prey to a cybercrime. And if it does happen to you, we have a place to report it in Canada. There's the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity. They've got a great website at cyber.gc.ca. You can report cybercrime. You can also tell the local authorities. That helps to, again, just track this stuff, report it, call your financial institution, so that, the more that we have this reported and collected information, the more we can do about it.
All right, Avery, thank you very much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
That is Avery Swartz, tech educator, and we reached her this morning on CBC in Toronto.
Breaking tonight. Every day.
The tariffs are very good. They're very powerful.
Canadians are always ready when someone else drops the gloves.
We bring context to chaos.
What are the consequences of this action?
We must retaliate.
In our own backyard.
Come on! Just a plane crash!
And beyond our borders.
It's the scene of an airstrike.
You're gambling with World War III.
Negotiations are ongoing.
From the source you can trust.
It's time to dig deeper into the story.
The National, Canada's newscast. Tonight on CBC.
7:24 a.m. is the time right now on CBC, and thanks so much for joining us. We've got a really cool story coming up an hour from now. I always like to tell you ahead of time on the morning show, because mornings get busy. So have your shower now and plan to join us later, maybe, or time it well, because we're going to hear about a piece of Winnipeg's past that would otherwise have been lost forever. Thanks to a BC film enthusiast, video footage from 1960s Winnipeg is finally seeing the light of day. So we're going to have that story in the next hour of Information Radio. And we also, if you are watching this show streaming on YouTube, are going to have some of that footage for you too. So maybe you want to make a plan to do that. You can find our YouTube stream links at cbc.ca/Manitoba. It is now 7:25 a.m. Thursday morning. It's 17 degrees in the city of Winnipeg. Cloud cover, and the rain has started now in the city. We have those showers with us, and they could kind of taper on and off, but we have a risk of a thunderstorm late today as well. It's going to be hazy, a high 25. Fog possible with an advisory around southern Manitoba, around Winkler and Morden specifically, and no rain really up north, but we do have, of course, those smoke advisories continuing. And the latest on Leaf Rapids and what happened overnight as the fire skipped over a crucial road and firefighters left the town, in fact, last night. And so we'll have the very latest on what's happening with that coming up in the news at 7:30. Right now, though, let's turn our attention to morning sports. Scott Regehr joins us on CBC. Hello to you.
Hey there, Marcy.
Ooh, I watched this game last night. It was so good. I felt like I was watching playoff baseball, but really it was small ball. And frankly, really terrible defense by the Yankees that got the Blue Jays back in the win column, huh?
Yeah, Toronto beat the Yankees last night, winning the series against their biggest rivals in the process. And the Jays did it while hitting just a single home run in the series compared to New York's 7. Toronto's win last night, as you alluded to, Marcy, featured smart base running, heads-up plays, and forcing the Yankees into a handful of errors. I think they had 4, probably should have had 5, with Bellinger muffing a ball in right field. Chris Bassett, he put in an old-school pitching performance, very nearly made it into the 9th inning. Here's how he sums up the team's division-leading success.
We're never out of it because of how hard our position players play. Like defensively, every night I feel like it's something special that happens. Base running, every night I feel like we're putting pressure on the other team. And then obviously like the at-bats, same thing. Just make everyone work hard. And then when they give up mistakes, you hit them.
Yeah, it's so much fun to watch. I've always wanted the Jays to steal more bases, to force the issue a little bit more. They've always relied on that, with no disrespect to the Bautistas and Encarnaciones of the past, but, in the glory long ball game. But this is so much more satisfying, and it sounds like you believe that, right?
Oh, and if you're a little kid playing ball, which I was, if you're watching this game, you're seeing two things. You're seeing, like, push it, steal the base, go for it, learning how to get your pinky in there on second base. That play was amazing last night.
Yeah, right.
But also you're going to learn that, even simple things happen to the pros. Like that ball that got lost by the Yankee in right field because of the sun.
Bellinger.
It was like, at a pro level, you go, how did that even happen? However, it's baseball. I just love baseball.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and then we had 162 games, which is another nice element of it. So they're in Detroit tonight. The Tigers are excellent, Marcy. But if the Jays win that game, they're top of the American League. Not bad.
Now let's turn to football. What's the latest as the Bombers continue to prep for their game Saturday against Toronto?
Right. Well, I mean, they would love the offense has been okay as they've compiled their 3-2 record so far. But listen, Brady Oliveira, obviously the most outstanding player in the league last season, hasn't been at his best. Part of that's the shoulder injury he sustained in the opening game of this season. I think he's got 178 yards total through 5 contests. So that's not where you would like Brady's stats to be. All of that said, the new offensive coordinator, Jason Hogan, was asked whether he wouldn't like to move things along a little more quickly.
I love Brady to death. I love him like a brother. But at the end of the day, it's what's going to help this football team win, right? Whether that's one carry for a yard or 100-yarder, whatever it is, we just want to win, right? We want to be 1-0. So I'd like to see him have success. But I also think the injury, getting his legs back, getting back into it. I think we saw a difference from the previous game against Calgary. So it's baby steps, 1 week at a time.
There you are. That's Jason Hogan, the O coordinator for the Bombers. The week begins tonight. Montreal taking on Calgary. Calgary's been the pick of the league so far, surprisingly enough, at 5-1.
And let's finish with the latest from the World Aquatic Championships.
Yeah, Thunder Bay's Molly Carlson, Marcy. She's looking to make the finals in the high diving competition. She's looking good so far. She's sitting in second place. Carlson's one of her sport's best, having claimed silver at the last World Championships when they were held in Doha. But she's lucky just to be competing this time around. Last month at an event in Italy, Carlson slipped on the platform and very narrowly avoided serious injury. Remember, high divers, they're jumping from the equivalent of a 9-story building. Carlson, who suffered just a badly bruised foot, knows how lucky she was.
My mom definitely hates me. She was like, can you never do this dive ever again? You are terrifying. But I guess I'm a cat, people were calling me. I have 9 lives and I know where my feet are. But at the end of the day, I just needed to see the water and then I knew I would be fine.
You can watch that dive, if you dare, on CBC's YouTube page right now. And you can watch Molly Carlson go for her first ever high diving world championship tomorrow on cbc.ca.
Oh, love watching it. Never would have the guts to do it.
Yeah,
wow.
Scary stuff.
All right, thanks a lot, Scott.
You bet.
That is Scott Regehr with sports. Now your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. At 7:30, we're at 17 degrees with cloudy skies over downtown Winnipeg. We've already seen rain, and we could see a thunderstorm later today. Good morning, I'm Matt Humphrey. We are following the fast-moving situation in Leaf Rapids. Town leadership on Facebook last night says the wildfire threatening the town, jumped the Churchill River and entered the town through its industrial area. We've just gotten an update from provincial officials who say a briefing is in the works today, and they're learning more about the situation. Municipal firefighters that have been working to protect the town did not evacuate. They moved back to safe zones and then resumed their work. The town will update its information to reflect this latest information, and we're hearing that those crews are back on the job working to save the community. They did not leave. Irvin Biggity is the town's former mayor. He's now in Winnipeg with his family after an evacuation order earlier this month. His voice filled with emotion as he spoke to CBC last night about the fire moving into the industrial area.
So I don't know when we're going to go home, if we're going to have a home to go to. But what matters to me is that my family is safe. I know where they are. I can go down the hallway, go see them. My siblings, my mom, my sisters, my baby, my fiance. I have them all right here.
Again, provincial officials say there's a plan for a briefing later today, and they are working with municipal leadership. Many eyes will be on a London, Ontario courtroom today where decisions will be handed down in a sexual assault case involving 5 former Canadian junior hockey players. The case centers on the testimony of a woman who said she was assaulted over several hours in June of 2018. It'll be decided by a judge alone after an 8-week trial, which included a mistrial and the dismissal of 2 separate juries. Brandon Trask is an associate law professor at the University of Manitoba. He describes the case as an onion with many layers from the criminal to the social.
It's exceptionally rare to have essentially 2 different juries selected and then discharged in the course of a trial. Like that basically never happens.
Trask says even if they end up being acquitted, none of the accused should be proud of their actions. A local nonprofit says a Winnipeg councillor's motion to ban encampments in public places like parks and community gardens won't benefit any city residents. Main Street Project Executive Director Jamil Mahmood says Councillor Cindy Gilroy's motion will push homeless people from one area of the city into others and could force some people to set up shelter in back lanes, private property, and hard-to-access areas. Mahmood says the moving will make it harder to help and could lead to more overdose deaths.
We can play a what's it called, whack-a-mole with encampments and move them all around the city, but does that benefit anybody? Does that address the problem? Does that lead to long-term solutions? We don't think so. We think there's a better, more proactive way for us to develop solutions and work collaboratively on making those solutions happen as a city and make sure we have the appropriate responses for the needs in the community, both for those who are homeless and those who are not.
Mahmood says the city needs more long-term housing options. A third candidate is now running to fill the vacant seat on Winnipeg City Council. City employee and Labour leader Carmen Prefontaine has filed papers for the by-election in Elmwood, East Kildonan. It was previously represented by Jason Schreier, who died in April. Prefontaine is vice president of the Canadian Union of Public Employees in Manitoba, but says it's her experience as a longtime city employee, which is an asset.
Homelessness issues, there is a lot of crime, a lot of people going down back lanes, vandalizing, stealing things. Again, I think that comes down to dealing with the poverty issues and actually proactively dealing with the underlying issues that exist more than just, putting more police on the streets.
So far, Prefontaine is joined on the ballot by urban forest and housing advocate Emma Durand-Wood and child care assistant Zachariah Saladin. The by-election is slated for October 25th. And finally, if you're looking for something to do this weekend, the Forks is offering free outdoor fun for people of all ages. They have skateboarding, ping pong, and all sorts of outdoor games. Communications lead Blair Malastravich says there are activities for everyone.
The world is expensive, as we know, right? And especially whether you're a family or just a couple or just a group of friends that want something to do that isn't a lot of money. This is great. Not only can you just come down and do one of these activities, but you can also take a tour with the Indigenous turtle tours that's happening.
Malastravich says no one needs to bring sporting equipment with them. It's all available at the Forks. And that's your CBC News from Winnipeg.
All right, thanks very much, Matt.
Back soon.
Well, let's just end where Matt started with the news this morning and that clarification from the province. And last night, the town of Leaf Rapids posting about the fire situation, the fire jumping the road, and firefighters, in their words, having to evacuate the community. The province with clarification this morning. So saying that later they will have a full press briefing for us. So we're going to hear more publicly from the province officially about what's happening in Leaf. And also the province saying that the town's Facebook post will also be updated to reflect what they say is correct information. They say that crews are back on the job. They are still working to save the community. They did not leave. So that's the point that's been to be clarified, that firefighters are still in that area. They did have to be pushed back and moved back to safe zones to resume their work. So we'll stay on top of this as we reach out to more people from Leaf to see what's happening. I wish I could say it's raining up there. It is not. It's pretty dry up north, but here in the south where we also need rain, that's happening. So it's wet in the city of Winnipeg right now, light rain, and we're going to have that continuing for us early this morning. Risk of a thunderstorm late this afternoon. afternoon in Winnipeg and a high of 25. Right now it is cloudy, raining, and 17 degrees. Going over to Brandon this morning, similar forecast for you, mix of sun and cloud, chance of showers, risk of a thunderstorm this afternoon, high 26. And currently in Brandon it is 13 degrees. And up in Thompson, mainly sunny, local smoke as is affecting most of the north and part of the south too. Your high 23 with the sunshine, but no rain in sight in the forecast for today for you. We do have fog that's causing an advisory to be issued. It's in effect, the fog advisory for around back south again, Winkler and Morden. If you're seeing any issues with that, you can let us know. Well, let's find out more about the morning commute. Sarah Sanders has that update. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy. Things are moving along smoothly out there. I haven't received any calls on the commuter line, so things are going well on your morning commute this morning. Just be mindful of the rain that is out there right now. Roads might be a little slicker than usual, but if there is something that's getting in your way or slowing you down, whether you are here in the city or out on the highways, I'd love to hear about it. I have the traffic phone right next to me here behind the board, so I'll be able to take your call, or maybe you want to tell me something good that's happening out there. I'm sure we'd love to hear that today. So you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Sierra.
Thank you.
Well, maybe you want to call the commuter line and confess something. We don't actually want you to do that, but it leads us into our next interview, because a lot of people at the Winnipeg Folk Fest made confessions this year. There was a green telephone booth set up called the Folk Booth Confessions. It was set up to give people a chance to voice their innermost thoughts and bare their souls anonymously. And some of the comments were emotional. Have a listen.
Last year at Folk Fest, I made a BFF, and he was like a beautiful, ethereal being, and he recently passed away. So this Folk Fest, he's not here, and I keep looking for his face in the crowds, and I forget that he has passed away because it's so recent, and it's a little difficult for me.
The installation was created by my next guest, artist Justin Faux. Since the festival wrapped up on July 13th, Faux has edited and uploaded some of the audio confessions, as you just heard, on social media as a love letter of sorts to the Folk Fest community and a reflection of the people there. And he's with us to talk about it. Hi there.
Hello and good morning. Thank you very much for having me on your show.
Thanks for being here. So we just heard someone, confessing, so to speak, of missing someone they lost. I heard that the inspiration for the booth started with someone that you lost. Is that right? What happened?
Yeah, in this lifetime, I've had unfortunate passings of some of my best friends, and I was looking for more of a place for me to express that, the unspoken love that I have for them, and I thought that creating this booth was a great way to express that, for not only myself, but for others who maybe are dealing with a passing or a loved one that they've never been able to express that unspoken love, right? We always want that one last conversation with them, or just to be able to say what we want to say, right? Mm-hmm. So doing this project really was really near and dear to my heart, and I never expected to get the result that I did, but I'm very happy that people were able to find comfort in that booth and be able to express what they wanted to express. And some funny, some sad, some beautiful love stories. And I think that's amazing that this art installation that I've created is providing that for the people.
It's kind of a bit of a trend right now, I understand, sort of confessionals and such. You see these things popping up. Have you done this in the past, or was this a first-time attempt?
First time. I did draw inspiration from, there was an Instagram account that does a voicemail kind of similar thing to this. How I wanted to bring that to life was adding this phone booth, and I thought that the best place to offer this was Folk Fest. It's a place where it's near and dear to my heart. I've been going for the past 13 years, and growing up in that festival campgrounds, I've experienced what other artists and animators have been able to offer for the people as well. And in the past, I've also done different installations, like a Trojan horse for the Winnipeg Folk Festival there. And just seeing the happy faces and the experiences that you're giving to the people is such a reward in itself. I hope to work with other artists and art animators for the future. And hopefully we can collaborate together versus be in competition with each other. I didn't really agree with the competition that they had this year, but hopefully this message can go out to all the artists and animators that I would love to collaborate and work with them for the next year.
Describe what the booth looked like for people that haven't seen it.
So I was going off of like an old-timey English phone booth, but I wanted to kind of keep it with a folky theme, so I went with a nice forest green, dressing it up with vines and nice yellow lighting, just to give it a nice warm feel for people to kind of feel comfortable in that space.
We're looking at photos of it. Actually, they're coming up on our monitor.
Yeah.
People are watching the show
At
on
night,
YouTube.
it looks beautiful. In the daytime, it looks great.
Yeah.
And it was just a really cool experience to see people enjoy it. I never really expected it to kind of take off, and I have many more projects that I want to do.
Were you in there pressing play and record when people came in, or was it all automated?
Automated. So you pick up the phone, it dials twice, and then it says leave a message after the beep. You can actually record your own prompts on there as well. And that phone is mostly originally for wedding audiobooks.
Mhm.
You like an audio guest book for leaving for the bride and groom.
Yeah.
But having this use for it in the festival, leaving it open-ended, was a better way for me to kind of use it, in my opinion.
How many messages did you collect?
Roughly around 628
Whoa.
over the 2-3 days.
Have you been through all of them already?
I've gone through them all. It took about a few hours, but definitely have to stop for some of the emotional ones. But yeah.
Can you describe some of them to us that stayed with you? Whether they were emotional or funny, or there was a big range. as you
I
mentioned?
really love the funny ones, but when you do come across an emotional one, you're taken on an absolute journey. I think the best passage of is storytelling, and to hear their perspective on things, whether like the tone of it, and just you're taken on a journey. And I love that. I love hearing people's stories of their experiences. It's the best way to like learn about life and through someone else's eyes.
Yeah. Do you have anything you could read to us, or do you remember any of the funny or serious ones that the nature of them at least?
So this one that really stuck out with for me was there was a couple on the line. A gentleman was telling him about his proposal, how he was feeling sick and he went back to his campsite and was preparing for his engagement, and it was a beautiful love story that he was telling. He was telling about how he was the speech, and through the middle of his speech he was kind of choking up, which is fine. I get it; it's a very emotional thing. And then his fiance was finishing the story, and the way she told the rest of that story, finishing where he choked up and then telling her side of the story, was absolutely beautiful. And I won't go finish the details on that. I will be posting it on the Confessions as my golden recording, let's call it.
It's a little tease. You got to go
Yeah.
there. So I was going to ask you what you're going to do with these. So where can people find them, and what's your plan how will you use them?
So if they want to hear the confessions, they're not all confessions. They're sometimes just positive messages and stuff like that. I might even change, because I liked how it's open-ended. It doesn't necessarily have to be a confession, but just a place for a safe space for people to express themselves, whatever's on their mind.
And where can people find them?
On Folk Booth Confessions, all one word, on Instagram there.
Okay. And then you've already started posting them, as you said.
Correct.
Folk Booth Confessions. Why do you think that people gravitate and gravitated, as you said, some 600 plus to record, in the confessional booth?
I think just having the animosity, and also just being able to express without any limitations. Normally, it is such a connected society with all these apps and phones and this and that, and I think that we forgot the interpersonal connections, talking face to face. Sometimes that can bring up anxiety for people, and I just hoped that creating that space there was a new avenue for people to kind of express themselves. And announcement that I'm going to be doing for that booth is that I'll be opening up a line for people to call in. It's going to be certain hours, probably during the Friday to Sunday. I'll have a prompt on my story.
Like all the time?
Maybe every once a week or so, or every 2 weeks. But it's just another way for people, because I know that some of the Folk Fest people didn't get a chance to leave a message, and they really wish they could. So
It's amazing you got 600 plus people leaving the message. As you said, anonymity plays a big part. Thank you very much for coming in and telling us about it and sharing it as well. I'll mention once again the Instagram where people can find you and social media. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say good morning, Winnipeg. Thank you to all my family and friends who are listening and watching right now. And good morning to my dad. Thank you very much.
I love that. What's your dad's name?
Alfred.
Okay. Good morning, Alfred. Yay. We're waving to him as he's watching the show streaming. That's Justin Foe with us live in studio on CBC. He's the creator of Folk Booth Confessional Booth. You might have been one of those 600 plus people that left a confession on the line. You can check out some of what was shared on the social media page. It's at Folk Booth Confessions.
If it happened today, find out today. That's the power of having the news in your hand. Get late-breaking news from reporters across the country, straight to your mobile device. Customize your experience with news from your region and what matters to you. Whether it's big headlines, detailed articles, live events, or on-demand video, CBC News has got you covered. Connect to the world. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca.
Because about 20 years ago, when Housing First hit,
we carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. Breaking news that shapes our world. Staying on top of stories around the globe. And connected close to home. It's news you can trust. Delivered when you want and where you want. On Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1. Local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
13 minutes to 8 o'clock now. Speaking of confessions, I've got a really funny story. I grew up Catholic, so I went to the confessional booth all the time. So I'll share that after 8 with y'all because I think it's worth sharing. Stay tuned for that. Right now it is 12 minutes to 8 o'clock. Also coming up, by the way, after 8, something that a BC film enthusiast is sharing is footage of Winnipeg in the 1960s. This is vintage footage. It is finally being revealed. It's not been seen before. So think 1960s billboards, kids playing in winter snow, go-go dancers in Winnipeg. So we'll tell you all about it and all about the footage after 8 o'clock on the program. It is right now, as I mentioned, 12 minutes to. We've got fog issues around Winkler and Morden. It's raining in Winnipeg and 17 degrees. And next on the program, our continuing coverage about housing and homelessness in Winnipeg. Yesterday on the show, we heard from Avram Shirak, spokesperson for the Manitoba Professional Property Managers Association. He told us what landlords might need to feel confident in being part of the solution while we're waiting for housing stock to be built for people who want to move from encampments into other housing. So what do landlords need to be part of the solution and feel confident renting to people who are houseless?
Because about 20 years ago, when Housing First hit in Winnipeg, I was approached then as the leader of the association. We took my company that I work for, took the very first Housing First person in. They were with us for 15 years. Excellent. But they didn't need supports. What we found was after 5 p.m. on a weekday, you couldn't find support. And if people were flailing, you ended up having to treat them like any other tenant. It's like, I'm sorry, you can't live here anymore if you can't act like a person should act in a building because you couldn't get someone to come in and help deal with their issues.
Avram Shirak speaking yesterday on CBC, spokesperson for the Manitoba Professional Property Managers Association. Now, all of these conversations this week were started because the mayor last week on our program on CBC said that he had a concern and a frustration, I think is how he had actually framed it, just around wanting to follow the objective, the big goals that the province and the city set out to get people who are houseless into spaces that have those wraparound supports, but they just haven't built the buildings fast enough. So we started looking at the role of landlords. Well, we also wanted to look at what wraparound supports mean. What is actually effective for people? In studio is Al Weeb, who we speak with a lot on these issues. He's a houselessness advocate. He's been training organizations on how to offer wraparound supports in the Housing First model. Hi, Al. Hi there, Al.
Hey, Marcy.
Also on the line, Joe Hatch is with us. Now, Joe used to be houseless, actually. He was placed in Housing First back in 2015, so quite some time ago, but has some lived experience here. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Mercy.
So, Joe, tell me a little bit when I say wraparound support and you cast your head back to sort of what you needed and maybe even continue to need. What are the most critical things, Joe?
Well, it depends on your situation. Like if you're still suffering from a mental illness, as I was, and it was actually 2010 that I was in that program, not 2015.
Okay.
So it really depends on what your needs are. And wraparound supports, we have, sometimes it's taking people to a medical appointment. Sometimes it's taking them to take them shopping or whatever. For me, it was the sweats, the Indigenous teachings, that sort of thing. I really learned a lot through that, and that really helped me reintegrate into society, sort of thing.
So you're obviously some of those cultural supports as you're Indigenous helped you connect.
Well, I'm not Indigenous.
Oh, okay. Pardon me. I made that presumption because you said that. See, but those supports and that what was it about the sweats that spoke to you and helped you, Joe?
Well, just the connection, spiritual connection, the teachings from the lodge keeper, that sort of thing.
Yeah. When you talk about the mental health support that is valuable. Because we're talking about actually physical space, is it helpful to have a number to call at any time of day, or would it be a person on site? I mean, ideally, when you're thinking about what kind of support would be there.
Well, on site, the way we had, because we were using scattered site housing, on site just would not be practical.
Mm-hmm.
And so just to have somebody to call on a 24/7 basis would have helped out the landlords, because they were complaining that they couldn't get anybody after hours. So
we heard that yesterday, and I want to ask you this, Joe, and then we'll turn to Al as well for some of his insight here. But when you hear landlords saying those that would want to be part of the solution here, but they need support because they feel like there's some of the tenants could, be higher needs, or they could see it as a risk of, renting to someone that may not have that history with rental. Is that something that's understandable, or is that something that's difficult to hear?
Well, it's difficult to hear, but it is understandable if you've never been in a place before, especially for the youngsters. It's very difficult to know that you have to take care of your place. You have to, be cognizant of your neighbors. You can't let strange people sleeping over all the time. You can't take people in off the street to have them sleep in your apartment. Those types of things are what I've found that cause the most trouble for the landlords.
It's so valuable to get the insight here. And Al, I've watched you nodding as, along as Joe's been talking. Why don't we stay with that whole last piece here? What Joe's kind of talking about is building community, taking people in and bringing them in. And that may be something that happens, and then you're all of a sudden in an apartment, and that's frowned upon.
Entirely.
What kind of a wraparound support, what do you think are the most valuable things?
Initially, frequency of a case manager to be there for the participants. My first job after 2.5 years of homelessness and 2.5 years in recovery was as a case manager in the at-home safe swap program. And sometimes we had to house people 7, 8, 9 times when we were only supposed to house them 4 times. But the difficulty, the greatest difficulty is dealing with the loneliness factor on the streets. And this is why camps are so valuable to people. There's community. And to actually take a person out of a place where they're comfortable and have community and put them in housing and forcefully put them in housing is detrimental.
Because they can be lonely. They're alone.
Entirely. And so they bring their friends in. And
how often would a case manager, would ideally you think, be supporting someone or connecting with someone then to maybe help with that?
Yeah, initially, from what we did in the at-home safe swap program, it's 3 times a week. 4 times a week, whatever the need is. Today in our program, we do the same thing. But we also bring in housekeepers and cooks help them learn those skills, and actually to be community or to be there for somebody to just commune with, right?
Mhm.
And to have that somebody in your building or in your apartment. It's initially as many times a week as they need, and sometimes the need is really, really great. And some people come in without that great need and can maybe be seen once a week.
Mhm.
But again, that case manager's job is critical. That's the most important piece. They are there to look after whatever need that person has.
How short are we of case managers in this?
We
part?
are, and that's one of the problems with the provincial strategy. It wasn't built in at the end, and actually they just now put more money for the city did for outreach. But the piece that's most important is outreach. Our city is under capacity all over within the entire sector. You can talk to CMHA, you can talk to almost anybody that they'll say they don't have enough staff, and it's hard. We bring in people from Vancouver and Chicago and Detroit just to keep those numbers up.
How do we recruit more? Do you think? Like, how is it just a matter of continuing to get the word out, or what do people have to understand about it?
Find organizations in different cities, and really work with them. Perhaps encourage young people out of high school to go into the social work program. We have organizations like Kanekanichik who does this kind of thing. They have pre-social work programs, and I go and train Kanekanichik from time to time, and talk about the need within the sector. It's a real critical problem right now.
This is too big of an issue to cover in the time we have.
Yeah, of course.
So I wonder if you can stay, and we'll keep talking at 8,
Sure.
and we'll put on part 2 of our conversation tomorrow.
Perfect.
Yeah, Joe, can you stick around with us?
Sure, if you like.
Yes, I would really like that, and I'm grateful. This happens time to time in the program. We get into a really rich conversation, and I don't want to stop it, so I'm not going to. So sit tight, the two of you, and we're going to talk more. We're also going to talk more about how Al has worked in other cities, including Toronto and Vancouver, through their Housing First programs, learning more about them and saying that in some ways they're more effective than what we're looking at in Winnipeg, so we're going to hear more about how. So stay with us as that conversation will continue, and we'll have it on either after 8 or tomorrow on the show. We'll let you know. Right now, we do have to move to headlines. We've had developing news overnight with Matt Humphrey.
Yeah, new information out of Leaf Rapids as the town deals with wildfire. The province says local and municipal firefighters did not leave the town last night. Essential workers did leave, but emergency crews protecting the town stayed. The province says some vacant structures have been burned and at least one person's home has been damaged, but firefighters did not leave the town. We'll hear more at the bottom of the hour.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Back soon.
Right now it is 1 minute to 8 o'clock here on CBC. It's raining here in Winnipeg. It's cloudy, 17, more rain to come. And stay with us after 8, more on houselessness and solutions moving forward. And also after 8 o'clock, we're going to talk to that Vancouver film enthusiast who restored some never-before-seen Winnipeg film footage from the 1960s. Lots to look forward to. Stay with us. Are we still rolling, Sarah? Can we still roll? Can you leave the door closed, Brad? We're going to keep recording.
Living in Crown Heights, New York. Now I'm in LA.
Joe's still
I'm
there?
gay. And
We won't get this anyway.
I'm Garvey Bailey, sitting in for Tom Power. Robbie Hoffman is here to
this
talk
just has
about
to be voice.
playing a Hollywood assistant who left
Okay.
on the TV show Hacks, a character inspired by her own real-life story.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
Hi, I'm Pia Chattopadhyay. The deadline is looming for Canada to reach a trade deal with the U.S. We'll speak to one premier about what was achieved at this week's First Ministers meeting and where we go from here. Coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. After 8 weeks of testimony, 2 juries, 1 mistrial, and a lot of twists and turns, a judge will deliver her decisions in the trial of 5 former World Junior Hockey players today. The case is being followed closely by the hockey world, legal community, and women's rights advocates. Karen Pauls has been following the trial in London, Ontario.
In an empty law classroom at the University of Manitoba, Associate Professor Brandon Trask is already preparing lesson plans that include this high-profile and highly unusual trial.
It's exceptionally rare to have essentially two different juries selected and then discharged.
Michael McLeod, Alex Formanton, Carter Hart, Dylan Dubé, and Cal Foote are charged with sexually assaulting a woman known under a publication ban as EM in a London, Ontario hotel room in June 2018. They have all pleaded not guilty. The case centers on the issue of consent, and there's been much discussion about two consent videos McLeod recorded towards the end of the night.
Consent needs to be contemporaneous with the actions, what took place. Video afterwards is generally speaking not going to be given much, if any, weight, in large part because there are all sorts of questions about was there undue pressure being placed.
Daphne Gilbert is a law professor at the University of Ottawa. She says it's possible the judge will find EM did not consent, but that the accused had an honest mistaken belief that she did. The judge must believe the accused took reasonable steps to confirm consent.
I'm hoping that if reasonable steps are an issue here, that we will get perhaps some new and additional clarification on what's required in situations like this, where the parties are totally strangers to each other. There was a lot of alcohol involved, multiple parties in the room.
If nothing else, Gilbert hopes the case will educate Canadians on what consent really is. Karen Pauls, CBC News, London, Ontario.
Rescuers are working to free 3 people trapped underground at the Red Chris mine in northern BC. They were drilling underground when the earth collapsed on Tuesday. For now, the workers are believed to be taking shelter at a refuge station. It has water, food, and air, but they have no communications. And experts say the rescue operation could take days. Here is UBC geotechnical engineering professor Dwayne Tennant.
They'll be very systematic about bringing the right equipment, the right personnel with experience to stabilize the tunnel. And I suspect they're going to have to then pull out the debris, and they'll do that in a series of stages.
BC's premier says 2 of the trapped miners are from BC, the other is from Ontario. Donald Trump's Jeffrey Epstein problem is not going away. In fact, it's getting worse. A House subcommittee voted to subpoena the files on the Epstein sex trafficking investigation. And there are reports the U.S. president has been told his name does appear in those files. Let's go to Janice McGregor in our Washington bureau. Janice, it's no secret Trump and Epstein were friends. Why is it such big news that he is in those files?
Marcia, photos and videos of these former friends together around beautiful women are dominating U.S. media, but the Wall Street Journal's revelation yesterday that the president was briefed by his attorney general about his name appearing in these files raises more questions about why this disclosure that even many Republicans are calling for hasn't happened yet. And while not denying that Donald Trump's name appears, the White House was dismissing the latest reporting as fake news. The attorney General's office says nothing in these files warrants further investigation or prosecution. But without knowing why or how exactly Trump's name comes up, skepticism remains. Trump is now suing the Wall Street Journal for its reporting on a suggestive birthday letter that Trump allegedly wrote to Epstein that featured the drawing of a naked woman and reference to their, quote, wonderful secret. If this lawsuit proceeds, that is going to bring more disclosures, and Trump may have to testify under oath about what he knew or what he was involved in. So some believe the White House is going to be forced to drop it.
And this is still an issue on Capitol Hill, even though the House was dismissed a day early. How is that possible?
Well, yesterday, a House Oversight Subcommittee voted to hear from its own witnesses on the Epstein files, with MAGA movement Republicans siding with the Democrats. Epstein's former partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, who's currently serving 20 years for her part in these crimes, is going to be subpoenaed. The Department of Justice is going to have to hand over more files. Republican Chair Clay Higgins from Louisiana says the American people need to know the truth.
I've never handled a subpoena like this. You understand, this is some fascinating stuff, and it has to be handled legally and ethically within the parameters of our rules.
Today, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who used to serve on Trump's legal team, is also interviewing Maxwell as part of the Justice Department's inquiry. But critics have pointed out that if the Justice Department wants to know the real truth, it should be focusing on the young women who were victimized by Epstein's network.
Thank you so much, Janice.
You're welcome.
Janice McGregor, reporting from Washington. A border dispute between Thailand and Cambodia has turned deadly. At least 12 people have died in crossfire as troops from both sides exchange gunfire. 40,000 others have been evacuated from dozens of villages along the disputed border with Cambodia. Patrick Falk has more.
Firefighters in Thailand's Sisaket province rushed to douse flames as clashes with Cambodia intensified. Elsewhere, in Surin province, also bordering Cambodia, people took cover in bunkers that have been fortified in recent weeks as tensions heightened between the two sides. Reports say the latest unrest began at an ancient temple in a disputed zone near Thailand's eastern frontier with Cambodia. Thailand's acting Prime Minister Pumtham Wechayachai said authorities are investigating the matter. We need more information, he says, as the situation requires caution and prudence. The neighbouring countries have been on edge since May following the killing of a Cambodian soldier at an undemarcated border area. It's since escalated into a full-blown crisis. Cambodia has condemned what it called reckless and brutal Thai military aggression. Thailand says it was Cambodia that fired first. It's closed all border checkpoints with Cambodia. Earlier, the two sides both downgraded diplomatic relations with one another, meaning it may be difficult to find a solution to diffuse the tension. Patrick Falk for CBC News, Singapore.
This is the biggest and most economically significant trade deal that the UK has made since leaving the EU.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer praising a major trade deal with India. Speaking alongside his Indian counterpart, Starmer says the agreement will create thousands of jobs in the UK. The deal is worth an estimated £6 billion and was 3 years in the making. Starmer says the current global trade climate demands a new approach.
We've entered a new global era, and that is one that requires us to step up, not to stand aside, to deliver for the British people by building deeper partnerships and alliances. And today is very much confirmation of that approach.
The deal will reduce India's average tariff on British goods from 15% to 3%. That will bring prices down on clothes, shoes, and food. India will also see cheaper prices on cars, medical technology, and some food and drink. Many people are prioritizing Canadian products when they shop as their way of fighting back against U.S. President Donald Trump's trade war. But as Sophia Harris reports, some big grocers are mislabeling imported foods as Canadian.
Stacey Deneen cuts up strawberries from Ontario in her kitchen. She's all in on the Buy Canadian movement, especially for food.
I will actively avoid buying products from the United States.
But she loses her appetite when it's mislabeled, like broccoli, advertised at her local Sobeys store as a product of Canada.
I was pretty excited, except that when I picked it up, the tag shows Salinas, California. That frustrates me. It makes me feel misled.
According to the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, in the past 8.5 months, the agency has identified 29 complaint-driven cases involving country of origin claims for food where companies violated the rules. The CFIA says most of the cases involve bulk produce sold in stores.
So I think the retailers have to step up to the plate and actually get their act together.
Labeling expert Mary Labbe says 6 months into the Buy Canadian movement, grocers owe it to shoppers to get it right.
They've had enough time. By now, they should know what's required of them and actually be doing it correctly.
Sobeys and other big grocers told CBC News they strive to provide accurate country of origin signage, but that mistakes can happen when managing large inventories and frequently changing suppliers.
I have run out of patience.
As for Deneen, she'll keep checking the fine print on products to make sure she knows where her food is coming from. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us here and our hardworking team at Information Radio on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa with Sierra Sanders and Brad Lillies and Ezeka Abzelatif behind the glass. It is raining in Winnipeg. It is not raining up north where we need it, and we have developing news on the wildfires out of Leaf Rapids. You are on the morning show here, and we appreciate you being with us. So Matt Humphrey with the headlines in a moment to tell us more about Leaf Rapids. In addition, this half hour on the show, part 2 of a conversation we started before 8, and we just had so much more to hear. We're hearing firsthand accounts of a former homeless person, 2 of them in fact. One of them was placed in Housing First a decade ago, or some 15 years ago actually. He's talking about where he's at now and what benefited him. We've been hearing about wraparound supports, but what actually do those look like? What's most effective and what are we missing? Really interesting conversation. Plus, here's a fun one. Unseen footage of 1960s Winnipeg. Uncovered by a Vancouver film enthusiast. He's going to be our guest and tell us all about it. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see some of it. Right now, though, to those serious matters about the wildfires, here is Matt with our headlines.
Good morning. An aggressive wildfire threatening Leaf Rapids has forced essential workers out of the town, but provincial officials say firefighters remained all night to protect the town. In a social media post, municipal leadership says the fire jumped the Churchill River and burned into the industrial area. But contrary to that communication, the province says firefighters did not leave. They did have to move back to safe zones, but then resumed their work. The province says a briefing will happen today, and we'll be watching for that. More news at the bottom of the hour.
Thank you, Matt.
Back soon.
It is cloudy and 16 in Winnipeg. In fact, lost a degree here. It is had been raining earlier, so that's also stopped for the moment. Now, we still have a risk of a thunderstorm late this afternoon and a high of 25. In Winnipeg, as mentioned, 16 degrees. In Brandon, partly cloudy, 14. You have a very similar forecast to Winnipeg. Thompson's going to stay sunny today, though, and it's going to be right around 10 degrees right now. And later, your high is 22 up in Thompson. We do 23 rather up in Thompson. We do have a fog advisory around Winkler and Morden today to the south, so that may have improved as the morning continues here. Usually that is it's usually foggy earlier, so we'll see how that looks for you, but take care just in case. And also want to mention the smoke and air quality is a little bit better here in the south today, but across the province we still are being told that there's issues with smoke, as you can imagine up north, serious issues with the smoke and air quality. All right, let's get into what's happening with the morning commute. Sierra Sanders is covering that. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy. Got a call from Chris about northbound Donald just before the bridge. There were emergency vehicles in the right lane, so he mentioned to keep left to pass there, and he mentioned that it was backing up there. That call was quite a couple of minutes ago before we hit World Report. So if you have any updates on that situation, I would love to hear about that. So that's northbound Donald just before the bridge there. There were emergency vehicles in the right lane. He mentioned it was getting quite backed up there. If you have any updates on situations out there, or you want to let me know about something happening, there is still some time in the show. You can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That's 204-788-3093.
Well, as I mentioned, it sounds like your typical day in the life of video on YouTube. Scenes flashing of a family eating breakfast together, kids playing in the snow, a trip to the grocery store. But I'm describing footage from 1960s Winnipeg, and up until recently, it had never been seen by anyone. It spent decades sitting in an empty storage locker in Vancouver. That's where Francois Arsenault comes in. He's a film enthusiast, as I mentioned, and he's been restoring film since the 1980s. After being gifted the role by a friend, he took it on as his latest project. And now, for the first time ever, the reels are being seen by the world. And we're going to roll actually some of this footage while we're talking. I'm hiccuping, pardon me. So if you are on YouTube, you can see some of these cool images. But we have Francois on the phone to talk about it. Hi there.
Good morning.
So what'd you first think? I mean, a roll of film is always intriguing in this day and age. When you put it in, I mean, did you know it was Winnipeg right away? What did you think?
Well, it had a few little notes written on the film can itself. The word Winnipeg was there, but that's all it was. I thought, okay, well, let's take a look and see what we have here. I didn't have an idea what year it was, what anything was. It's like this for a lot of the reels that I pick up. When I took a look at it, immediately I recognized it's Winnipeg because, well, there's snow. I mean, it is winter, it's cold. There's always clues, though. There's always clues. The license plate specifically was an easy one. But, of course, I started coming to light that this was, in fact, Winnipeg. It was just so intriguing to see, especially the downtown, the old Safeway store. These Safeway stores are common across the country. You don't see them anymore. but they were quite common in the 60s and 70s.
Look at the footage as it's rolling. I'm going to describe some of it here. I mean, the Golden Boy looks the same, but all of these night shots of these signs I forgot about. I mean, there's a Red Rose Tea sign. There is a Labatt sign. We used to have a lot of breweries here, right? A whole bunch of different signs. And then the people downtown and all the old cars. It's very, very cool. Do you know why this person had this or whose locker this was?
Well, the fellow that took this footage, this took a little time to figure out because there was two separate batches. His name was Imre Michalek. He was a Hungarian refugee and left Hungary sometime in the late 1950s after the revolution. Settled briefly in Toronto before moving to Vancouver. And in between the two, he seemed to have picked up the skills of a cameraman. And not just the skills. This guy had some pretty good chops. I really appreciate his work. But it seems that he was sort of halfway between an enthusiast and a professional, and it looks like he probably did a little bit of shooting on the side for friends. So the billboards and neon signs clearly had to be for some sort of an advertising firm. I've not been able yet to find the paperwork, but he captured this imagery. What's nice about advertising and neon signs is it's a snapshot of that time, of that day. We don't see neon anymore, and billboards are starting to give way to LED and computerized signs. But it is fascinating to watch, especially in the time, because it was ordinary footage. Today, we consider it extraordinary.
Look, I'm just watching the signs move and my brain is going back in time. And some of the groovy outfits here, Francois, like there's some pretty groovy 60s fashion walking around.
There is.
Yeah.
I think the go-go dancers are really quite intriguing. And what's fun about running this channel is that I get responses from people who come up with some clues. The go-go dancers, someone said it's at a particular club downtown. I'm still doing some more research. It takes time to figure out where everything is, but the feedback from people has been overwhelmingly positive, and some of the locations they're identifying are spot on. So it's really quite enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm looking at old Blue Ribbon Coffee signs and Salisbury House billboards and jam advertisements. Lots of flags, actually. And then the Bay, which now actually is kind of bittersweet, right? Because we just closed the Bay.
If you take a look at that flag, that's actually the HBC flag.
Oh, yeah.
Not the Canadian ensign. The white HBC are written in the corner. You have to take a look at it a second time. That's not the ensign. That's the HBC flag, something you rarely saw after 1970.
So you mentioned a channel. So where are you sharing this? And tell me a little bit about that. And I know you do this as a hobby, but you're kind of expanding here.
Yes, Real Life is the channel. It's spelled like film reel, so it's a bit of play on words. REELIFE, all two words. I've been doing this for 5 years online. Actually, quite a bit longer with some of my earlier stuff, but I've decided to go and focus specifically on vintage film. I've been collecting since the late 1980s and restoring from that time as well. In the early days, the restoration was done with a professional camera. We were getting only 400 lines of standard definition. 10, 11 years ago, I was able to go to 1080p, so HD as we all commonly know it. And this past winter, I decided to invest, and invest it was, into a proper professional 4K system. There's only about 10 or 12 of these in the country from Holland, from a company called Film Fabrique. So it has the capacity to transfer and scan 16 millimeter right down to 8 millimeter and everything in between, as well as optical audio. And optical audio is critical. There's a lot of film scanners out there, the consumer machines and such, that you can scan some film. With optical audio, you're actually capturing the sound, and that's the tricky part. So I do have some extraordinary films that have sound that I'm starting to scan as well.
I'm glad you explained all that, because we really are losing ways to even look at all this old footage. Look, there's the old Dutch sign with the windmill moving. I can't get enough of this.
Yeah, this is so important. You're absolutely right. Capturing and preserving this stuff is so important.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing, is I'm restoring and preserving for future generations to enjoy.
So on YouTube, Real Life, REEL, Real Life. Francois Arsenault is the BC photographer we're speaking with. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. Really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Enjoy.
Oh, we will. Take care.
Take care.
That is Francois Arsenault on with us live this morning from BC. He restores and shares all kinds of vintage film on his YouTube Real Life. You can check it out, including the piece we've been talking about this morning, vintage footage from the 1960s, never before seen, discovered in a locker of all things.
As wildfires impact our province, keep up to date with CBC. For the latest information, listen to CBC Radio 1. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba or the CBC News app. For people who have a limited data plan or are running into spotty mobile service on the road, visit cbc.ca/lite. That's cbc.ca/LITE.
16 in Winnipeg. Right now, we have a cloudy sky. Our high is 25, as I've been mentioning. Thanks for joining us here on CBC. Well, if you've been with us for the morning, then you know that just before 8 o'clock, we started a conversation, which is an ongoing series of conversations we've had about people living homeless in Winnipeg and houseless, and how to get them into housing faster. We have a strategy. We don't have the buildings. There's been a lot of talk about wraparound supports, which we this morning are trying to understand, what are the most effective wraparound supports and what's missing as we move forward to try to do better. And so here now is part 2 of our conversation, because we had so much more to explore that we kept talking. So this was part of the conversation we recorded at 8 o'clock with Al Weave, who is a homelessness advocate, and Joe Hatch, who is a formerly lived houseless in Winnipeg. He was placed in the Housing First program some 15 years ago. Joe, I understand one of the supports that some clients receive when we talk about wraparound is trauma counseling. And I know that, Al, you said it took you about 7 years to get over the trauma of being unhoused. Joe, what's been your experience navigating trauma, and how did supports help with that for you?
Well, I was already hooked up with a psychologist, or psychiatrist, I should say. And I still see my nurse practitioner. I talk to her every couple of weeks.
So you had that in place then before?
I had that in place before.
Yeah.
So I was okay there.
Yeah. For you, Al, as I mentioned, we'll just put your mic back on here. For you, Al, in terms of your work in other cities and looking at Toronto and Vancouver,
Right.
their Housing
Yeah.
First programs, what do you think that we could learn from them?
Well, I spent 13 months developing the programs in those cities, and again, everything that we do is totally person-centered. It's not about what we do. It's about what we do for them, and what their needs. In Toronto, for example, we have in-house trauma counselors, because it's really, really important. And because of what I went through for getting over the trauma, it took. I would sit on boards and committees and not say a word, because that trauma had not left me. I had not. And what it does is it takes away your confidence and your self-being and self-worth. It took me that long to get it back. And so I realized, I know how important that is. So we have, on-call trauma counselors. And I think that we could learn how to do that here. We could do that here, but it takes money. And that's the big crux of any issue when it comes to homelessness and housing. And I am fortunate enough to have a person back our program that isn't really concerned about that, because it goes into a tax write-off situation, and this is a problem that the province does not. They don't have the money for it. Organizations are struggling every day.
Are they over-promising then? Like, I don't mean to be a wet blanket on what is.
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
you and I have talked before. I think you've described it as a well-intentioned promise.
Well-intentioned, absolutely.
But is it over-promised when you actually look at what the cost and the needs of those wraparound supports for individuals would be to make it successful?
Absolutely. We lose between $450 and $650 a month per individual. The problem is that our premier came in and said we're going to end homelessness in 8 years, which is, of course, pie on the sky and will never happen. We won't end it in our lifetimes. And again, the premier, very well-intentioned, of course, but used the term wraparound supports very often, as you know. And the problem is, you can't just say it. you have to throw money at it, and it has to be done 100% in. And that's a problem that we just don't have the supports right now and the funding for that.
I want to ask you something, Joe, that you mentioned that I thought was interesting in the first part of our interview. You had mentioned, Joe, that sometimes when people are adjusting to the change, in being maybe in let's say it's an apartment space, and that people might be not used to, you were saying the care for an apartment, sort of not inviting people in from outside, and they may end up being labeled as disruptive, and then landlords say they have no choice but to maybe even evict you, which of course is terrible, because then you're on just a wheel of you're back where you started.
Right.
What's the line to walk when you're trying to, because it's teach people how to re-enter, as Al worded it, back into sort of that kind of an environment? Because on the other hand, I mean, these are people and they're going through so much. So I'm wondering what the line is to walk. How should there be people that have been out unhoused and know what that experience is like, that sort of are paired with folks as they're going through the transition, or what do you think might work?
Well, I think if they just have a real close connection with their case manager, that is probably what was the most helpful for me. So
I think Al wants to get in, unless you want to elaborate.
Go ahead. No.
Yeah. What I do differently, and it's really, really difficult to get to this place, but 70% of my case managers have lived experience. I don't move without that. That's first and foremost, and sometimes it's very, very, very difficult to find, case managers or people who have moved on in their development to be a case manager for folks. But we work hard at that.
Is there training for those that are, as you say, well-intentioned as well, though? Because I'm thinking if there's a landlord that might be well-intentioned and open up the block, but then say, you can't live here, it's a mess, you don't know what you're doing, you're scary in the hallways. And these are some of the examples from yesterday I'm pulling. Is there I don't know if it's sensitivity training or is there some training that should go along with that to understand what that transition really involves?
I'm trying to break those doors down to get in. I do speak to corporations and organizations all the time, or not all the time, but when I can. But I think that we really need to address landlords and building owners and managers to a large extent, just to bring in the educational piece. It's the same as talking to the province or the city about who the folks in the camps are, because there's no idea and what it takes to actually manage that properly. But I think education is a huge piece, and it needs to be. We can't mandate anything, but it surely needs to be spoken to.
Do you think that landlords and in existing rental spaces should be part of the solution as we're waiting for other things to be built?
Absolutely. It can be a partnership. What that Hope Squad did, that was different than any other program to that point. They had their own construction team. When the apartment got trashed, they went in and fixed it. That's totally different than anything else you see today. And I think we have to build programs that also do that, to ease landlords' anxieties over right apartments.
Just as a last question, I want to ask you, Joe. You were placed in Housing First in 2010, as you said. How are you doing now? I mean, it's been 15 years. How are you doing?
Well, great. I worked for the Mental Health Commission of Canada for a couple of years after I got into the program, and then I got hired by the University of Winnipeg, Gino D'Stasio Institute of Urban Studies. Worked there for 12 years and as a researcher, and now I'm retired.
Awesome. Really lovely to hear about your journey, and thank you for going back to those early days so we can learn some lessons. Appreciate it, Joe. Thank you.
Not a problem, Mercy.
And Al, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Al Weeb, local homelessness advocate, consultant and advisor with the City of Winnipeg on matters of homelessness and poverty today. Joe Hatch was also with us, who used to live houseless and was placed in the Housing First program way back in 2010. So lessons to be learned as we move forward in this, and that's part of our ongoing series of conversations we've been having this week. Let's get to a conversation that's coming up on Radio Noon between 12:30 and 1, the call-in portion of the show, and host Marjorie Dalhouse is here to tee it up.
Hi there, Marcy. Yeah, well, it's a talker, lowering the voting age. So that's our call-in topic today. Christopher Adams from the University of Manitoba will join us at 12:30. We'll also have Manitoba Senator Marilou McPhedran, who has introduced this through a private member's bill, join us earlier in the show to talk about why lowering that age is good for our democracy system here in Canada. So that's all coming up. Join us with your questions, comments, everything. Join the conversation after 12:30.
That's going to be a busy conversation. Thank you, Marge.
Thanks, Marcy.
It certainly is a talker. Next on the show, your CBC Manitoba News.
This is CBC News. At 8:30, we're at 16 degrees with rainy skies over downtown Winnipeg. We could see a thunderstorm later today. Good morning. I'm Matt Humphrey. Provincial officials have given an update on the wildfire situation in Leaf Rapids. Last night, the town posted on Facebook saying the fire had entered the community after jumping the Churchill River. The province now says local and municipal firefighters have not left the town. Essential workers did leave, but emergency crews protecting the town did not. At times, firefighters did have to stage at previously established safe zones, but firefighting efforts were active throughout, we're told. The province says some vacant structures have been burned and at least one person's home has been damaged. Irvin Biggity is the town's former mayor. He's now in Winnipeg with his family after an evacuation order earlier this month.
The idea of returning home doesn't seem that realistic right now. Last time I heard it was like, we'll be out here for a couple of weeks. The fires should be combated, should be dampened. We have lots of rain, the winds are favorable, but that changes quickly in the day.
Biggity says he's not sure he'll have a home to return to when the wildfires are over. The province says there are plans for a briefing later today. The Leaf Rapids Facebook post last night said firefighters had been forced to leave the town because of the fire. The province now tells CBC that information isn't accurate. A judge is expected to give her decision today in a sexual assault case involving 5 former Canadian junior hockey players. The case centers on the testimony of a woman who said she was assaulted in a London, Ontario hotel room over several hours in 2018. Brandon Trask is an associate law professor at the University of Manitoba. He says 2 videos in which the woman appeared to give consent are, quote, almost useless because they were recorded after the sexual encounters.
If something took place and then there's a video afterwards, again, the video afterwards is generally speaking not going to be given much, if any, weight, in large part because there are all sorts of questions about, were there other factors involved? Was there undue pressure being placed? Things that weren't caught on video.
Even if no individual is found guilty, Trask says none of the accused players should be proud of their actions that day. A Winnipeg nonprofit says a councillor's motion to ban encampments in some public places does little to address homelessness in the city. Councillor Cindy Gilroy wants to stop people camping in public places where children gather, like parks or community gardens. And another councillor wants that ban to include no camps along major roads. Main Street Project Executive Director Jamil Mahmood says the motion may force people to move into areas that are hard to access, making it harder to provide them services. Mahmood says his group wants to collaborate with the city.
Let's co-create responses that work for everybody in our city, but also don't dehumanize or hide homelessness, because hiding it doesn't solve the problem.
Mahmood says the city needs more long-term housing options. As you've been hearing, 3 miners are waiting to be rescued from a northern BC mine. They've been trapped in the Red Chris mine since Tuesday. Dwayne Tennant is a geotechnical engineering professor. He says the miners are in a refuge station.
There'll be a large table and benches, probably some cots if you have to stay multiple days, someplace to sleep that's more comfortable than on a table or the floor. Sources of water. It probably had running water for washing hands.
One of the trapped miners is from Ontario and 2 are from BC. A Labour leader and longtime city employee has entered the race to fill the vacant seat on Winnipeg City Council. Carmen Prefontaine is bidding to replace Jason Schreier in Elmwood, East Kildonan. Schreier died suddenly in April. Prefontaine is vice president of the Canadian Union of Public Employees, but says her experience with the city is the real asset.
I work with finance, I work with safety, health and wellness. I am aware of the budgeting processes. I'm aware of so much of the infrastructure issues, many of the issues obviously through the union that are issues with labor management. I feel like that aspect of me is a huge contributing factor to being successful in this role.
So far, Prefontaine is joined on the ballot by urban forest and housing advocate Emma Durand-Wood and child care assistant Zachariah Saladin. The by-election is slated for October 25th. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/Manitoba, or you can use the CBC News app.
All right, thanks very much, Matt.
Thanks for the morning, Mars.
You too. That is Matt Humphrey, along with Bryce Hoy and Alana Cole, all live in our news center today. Our live team today, Ezekiel Abdelatif, as well as Sierra Sanders, Brad Lillies, and Abby Adiyemi. Also, big thanks to our associate producers, Issa Kickson, Sid Sundance Horshig, Jenna Badasso, and Chidi Akuma, who worked on items in the program today. And our producers in unit are Leif Larson and Nellie Gonzalez. So big thanks to everybody and their hard work. Last look at the forecast. Foggy around Winkler and Morden. Still could be like that for you. Smoke, obviously, all over the province is an advisory, especially up north. And rain. Expected in Winnipeg to come back a little bit later today. Chance of thunderstorms in Winnipeg and Brandon. Otherwise sunny up in Thompson. And we leave you with Winnipeg sitting at 16 degrees. And our current temperatures otherwise are Brandon sitting at 14 degrees and Thompson sitting at 11. Well, the last look at what's been a quiet commute. Here's Sierra.
Yeah, it has been a little bit of a quieter commute this morning, Marcy, but I got a call from Ron just before we went into the news. Mentioned that southbound Henderson was quite backed up. Don't know exactly what's causing that backup there, but he mentioned that it was quite backed up and he actually rerouted himself, did a little U-turn to kind of avoid those backups there. So thank you for the morning. It was been a busy on our side, but thank you so much for the calls. I got a call from Chris and Ron recently, so thank you so much for both of you for calling, and we'll do it all over again tomorrow.
We will. Thanks, Sierra.
Thank you.
I echo what she said. Thanks, everyone, for engaging with us this morning, for making CBC part of your day, and we hope you do join us again tomorrow for the Friday show. Take care and be well. Leaf Rapids, we're certainly thinking of you, and hopefully at that provincial briefing later this morning, we'll hear some brighter news than what was shared overnight as the fire seemed to take a bit of a turn there. So stay tuned to CBC for those details, and The Current is coming up next. My name is Marcy Marcusa. This is 89.3 FM. Take care.